Chapter 13:11. It's Sword Emperor Yi Chen. I've seen his image before. I've seen it too. Oh my God! Sword Emperor Yi Chen has descended. In Elysium, Emperor and Emperor were still the highest titles. Although Sea of Soul Realm experts already knew that Life and Death Realm had 9 layers, and that Emperor and Emperor were not the pinnacle, the others were too far away for them. Moreover, since ancient times, Elysium had always been the strongest emperor, such as Ancient Emperor and Qi Tiandi. As of now, Sword Emperor Yi Chen was no longer inferior to Ancient Emperor and Qi Tiandi. He was one of the strongest emperor in Elysium. Why did Sword Emperor Yi Chen pull out the Sky Sword? Could it be that the Sky Sword is a powerful sword? It should be. The Sky Sword's sword qi covers the entire Sky Sword continent and fuses with the Yuan qi of the world. It's certainly a powerful sword. Amidst the discussions of the people nearby, Yi Chen pulled out the Sky Sword with a clang. The boundless sword qi seemed to have found a vent as it soared into the sky, shooting all the way to the starry sky outside Sky Beyond. It was like a bull charging into the sky, shooting to an unknown distance and creating an enormous destructive power. Good sword. With a thunderous voice, Yi Chen's eyes fixated on the Sky Sword. Compared to the brilliant God Sword, the Sky Sword was countless times more powerful. Just the sword qi alone was not inferior to the aura emitted by a supreme expert, perhaps even superior. Holding the Sky Sword, Yi Chen felt his blood qi and sword yuan boil, producing a miraculous resonance and amplification. Let's refine it first. His soul power condensed into an imprint and branded on the Sky Sword. Buzz. The Sky Sword trembled and rapidly shrunk. Yi Chen's body also shrunk. In a few moments, the Sky Sword had shrunk to 12 meters long, matching Yi Chen's 15 meters height. It's damaged. After refining the Sky Sword, Yi Chen discovered that the Sky Sword's source was damaged, as if it had been damaged by something. Who could damage the Saint Sword? Questions flashed through Yi Chen's mind. It seems that the heavenly sword falling into Elysium isn't as simple as the rumors say. There must be an inside story. Yi Chen didn't think too much about it. As far as he was concerned, a slightly damaged heavenly sword was still a saint's sword. It was countless times more powerful and sharper than a supreme sword. It could push his strength to a whole new level. Wouldn't it be unfair to the swordsmen of the Sky Sword continent if we take away the Sky Sword? The Sky Sword was the sword of destiny of the Sky Sword continent. If it was taken away, the chances of the Sky Sword continent giving birth to a powerful swordsman would undoubtedly be greatly reduced. Some babies with astonishing potential were born with a strand of Sky Sword qi in their bodies. This strand of Sky Sword qi could make it easier for them to comprehend the Sword Tao. Forget it, I'll use the Huang Divine Sword instead. It was impossible for Yi Chen to give up on the Heaven Sword, so he could only give up on the Supreme Treasure Sword, the Brilliant Divine Sword. Although the Brilliant Divine Sword was a Supreme Treasure Sword, it couldn't be compared to the Heaven Sword. But it was better than nothing. Moreover, the Supreme Treasure Sword was stained with his own Sword Tao. He believed that it would be beneficial to the swordsmen of the Sky Sword continent. The Brilliant Divine Sword grew bigger, becoming the same size as the Heaven Sword. Clang, the earth shook. The Brilliant Divine Sword stabbed deeply into the ground, and a vast sword qi spread out. It wasn't over yet. Yi Chen operated the power of time and space, and began to condense the Sword Realm. The so-called Sword Realm was actually a space of Sword Tao. There were countless Sword Tao comprehensions and countless sword techniques inside. As long as he sorted them out a little, coupled with the power of time and space, he could condense the Sword Realm. Condensing the Sword Realm was much more difficult. After spending a whole month, Yi Chen finally condensed the Sword Realm. After finishing all this, Yi Chen's figure flashed, and he arrived at the exit of Elysium. Then, he disappeared at the exit. Sky Sword Continent. This sword isn't the Heaven Sword. I wonder what Sword Emperor's intention is? Regarding Yi Chen taking away the Heaven Sword, no one dared to have the slightest complaint. Of course, deep in their hearts they more or less felt some regret. The Heaven Sword had helped them too much. A Peak Sea of Soul Realm expert approached the brilliant Divine Sword. 1. He entered the brilliant Divine Sword. 2 hours later, he came out. From then on, a piece of news spread. The new Heaven Sword also had a Sword Realm. Moreover, this Sword Realm was even more targeted than the original one. At the very least, many people had improved because of it. Entering the new Sword Realm was equivalent to receiving Sword Emperor Yi Chen's pointers. The matter of Yi Chen obtaining the Heaven Sword was only known to a few people, including Su Jing and Morong Qinqing. During this period of time, Yi Chen was comprehending the Sword Tao of the Heaven Sword. As for the Sword Realm, it wasn't of much help to him. He didn't know how powerful the Master of the Heaven Sword was back then, but he could tell that the Sword Tao inside the Sword Realm was a bit rough. It didn't seem to come from the hands of a Sword Sovereign. I'm afraid the sword intent of the Heaven Sword's true master has already reached the 9th step. There was still a trace of sword intent left on the Heaven Sword. It was as thin as a gossamer and could disappear at any time. However, judging from the sword intent's level, it was already at the 9th step. The 9th step Yi Chen spoke of was not the ordinary 9th step sword intent, but the 9th step radiant sword intent. The radiant sword intent was the same as the immortal sword intent and destruction sword intent. They were all supreme sword intents. There were actually 5 supreme sword intents: immortal, destruction, radiant, darkness, and chaos. Regardless of which supreme sword intent it was, they were all extremely rare. It wasn't something that could be obtained just because one had great talent. One also needed to be compatible with the supreme sword intent. Yi Chen being able to match the immortal sword intent and destruction sword intent could be said to be the greatest miracle. From this aspect, Yi Chen being able to reach where he was today was inevitable. I wonder if I can comprehend the radiant sword intent. Yi Chen carefully comprehended this trace of radiant sword intent. Time flowed like water. In Yi Chen's soul ocean, a trace of light appeared. This light was extremely weak, like a candle flame that could be extinguished at any time. As this light appeared, Yi Chen's soul ocean started to surge. The immortal sword intent and destruction sword intent tried their best to suppress the soul ocean, preventing it from exploding. At that time, Yi Chen's soul ocean would really be destroyed, and there would be no way to save him. Yi Chen didn't know that his behavior was no different from courting death. He already had 2 supreme sword intents, and comprehending another one was like putting 10 times more water into a bottle. It would be strange if it didn't explode. However, Yi Chen already had 2 supreme sword intents, and these 2 sword intents complemented each other in an absolute balance. Once something happened, they would be the first to react. After all, if the soul ocean exploded, they would be dead as well. If Yi Chen only had the immortal sword intent, and comprehending the radiant sword intent, he would definitely die, because the immortal sword intent and the radiant sword intent didn't complement each other. Of course, this was only a guess. When a person had the radiant sword intent, he might succeed in comprehending the darkness sword intent, or he might not succeed. Everything was unknown. Gradually, the light took shape. It was a sword spirit that shone with radiant light. The radiant sword spirit grew rapidly. Rank 1, Rank 2, Rank 3, it only stopped growing when it reached Rank 6. At this point, Yi Chen had 3 supreme sword intents. Rank 8 Immortal Sword Intent, Rank 8 Destruction Sword Intent, and Rank 6 Radiant Sword Intent. Chapter 13:12. The moment the light sword spirit reached the 6th step, the light sword intent on the heavenly sword dissipated. Sometimes, the sword intent was also a sword artist's mark, more representative than a soul mark. Holding the heavenly sword, Yi Chen seemed to feel the heavenly sword's breath and emotions. There was no longer any barrier between the two, as if they were in perfect harmony. With the heavenly sword, even if I can't defeat Heavenly Master Corrupt Devil, I can at least put up a fight. If Sky Demon Venerable and True Martial Supreme were legendary supreme beings, then Heavenly Master Corrupt Devil could be counted as a quasi-legendary supreme being. Before, Yi Chen was not his opponent at all, but now, he had the confidence to fight. The atmosphere of war is getting thicker and thicker. Sheathing the heavenly sword, Yi Chen walked out of the palace and looked up at the sky. Ordinary people couldn't feel it, but as a supreme being, Yi Chen could clearly feel the pervasive atmosphere of war. Is the war about to begin? Su Jing and Murong Qingqing walked over. Yi Chen said slowly, "What will come will come. You two be careful." Su Jing and Murong Qingqing both wanted to participate in the war between humans and demons, as this was their chance to accumulate resources. A person's achievements depended on how much they had experienced. The reason why Yi Chen could become a supreme being was directly related to his rich experiences. In the universe, there were many people whose talents were not worse than Yi Chen's. Yi Chen's powerful comprehension was also a coincidence. However, in the universe, there was not a single person who could compare to Yi Chen. Windy Nation, South Rudra Region, True Spirit Continent, Elysium, and the universe. Yi Chen's short 700 years of life was already a legend. In every step, he was the absolute protagonist. Therefore, Yi Chen didn't plan to stop Su Jing and Murong Qingqing. People couldn't be too selfish. They couldn't stop other people's choices just because they were worried that they would be in danger. Of course, he would definitely protect them in secret. We missed the war between humans and demons last time, but we won't miss it this time. Don't worry, we're quite perceptive. Murong Qingqing was looking forward to the upcoming war. Black Tortoise Galaxy. Countless armies of demons, evil spirits, yakshas, and other evil races were gathered in the starry sky. The ones leading the armies were marshals. Their strength was not comparable to a quasi-venerable, but their ability to lead armies surpassed most quasi-venerables. Between a marshal and a quasi-venerable, one was the commander of the army, while the other was the trump card. However, what truly determined victory or defeat wasn't the army, the marshal, or the quasi-venerables, but the supreme paragons. A single paragon was equivalent to millions of armies. For a race without a paragon, no matter how many armies they had, no matter how many quasi-venerables they had, it wouldn't matter. The paragon was the true trump card, the pillar of support. Let's go. Following the commands of the marshals, the battleships started shuttling through the void, heading towards the White Tiger Galaxy. Supreme Pavilion. Supreme True Marshal looked at the Supremes with a solemn expression. Everyone, the war has begun. We lost the Black Tortoise Galaxy last time. This time, we can't lose the White Tiger Galaxy too. Losing the Black Tortoise Galaxy was already a huge blow to the human race. The four major galaxies had always been the human race's territory. Losing one was equivalent to losing a quarter of the resources. If they lost the White Tiger Galaxy too, then half of the resources would be gone. Supreme Lang Yu's killing intent sword. This time, they won't be able to take advantage of us. Supreme Thunderbolt, may be in ordinary Supremes, but if the demons want to take over the White Tiger Galaxy, they'll have to step over my dead body first. Supreme Thunderbolt was one of the ordinary Supremes of the human race. True Marshal, is the Golden Buddha still in seclusion? Supreme Bronze asked. Supreme True Marshal explained, the Golden Buddha is at a crucial moment. Don't disturb him for now. I believe that he will be able to break through to the 9th transformation Golden Body and rush over to join the battle. Before the Golden Buddha went into seclusion, he told him that it would be best if he could break through. If not, he would rush over. Supreme True Marshal naturally hoped that the Golden Buddha could break through. Otherwise, just the corrupt devil Heavenly Sovereign alone was enough to give them a headache. I see. Supreme Bronze said, I'm no match for the corrupt Devil Heavenly Sovereign, but I can still hold off the flawless Archdevil Heavenly Sovereign for a while. Leave the flawless Archdevil Heavenly Sovereign to me. Supreme Bronze was one of the strongest Supremes of the human race. Even Supreme Langya was slightly inferior to him. He believed that he was the only one who could go against the flawless Archdevil Heavenly Sovereign. Even though the flawless Archdevil Heavenly Sovereign was a Supreme Bronze was confident in his own defense. He believed that he could hold off the flawless Archdevil Heavenly Sovereign for a while if he gave it his all. Alright. Supreme True Marshal knew that this was the only way. He turned his head and looked at Yi Chen. Yi Chen, you've just become a Supreme not too long ago. How strong are you now? Supreme True Marshal couldn't see through Yi Chen. Yi Chen said, I'm not a problem against the Earth Demon Venerable. In theory, Yi Chen was definitely stronger than the Earth Demon Venerable. However, Yi Chen didn't dare to be too confident. Who knew if the Earth Demon Venerable had a trump card? In terms of defense, he wasn't as strong as the Golden Buddha Supreme. Moreover, his attacks couldn't kill the Earth Demon Venerable in one go. What? Supreme Yi, you're not joking, right? The Earth Demon Venerable is a mid-level Supreme. Supreme Yi, is what you said true? The human race Supreme experts looked at Yi Chen suspiciously. It wasn't that they looked down on Yi Chen. It was just that what Yi Chen said was too ridiculous. Yi Chen, is what you said true? Supreme True Marshal stared at Yi Chen. Yi Chen nodded, definitely. Alright, I'll leave the Earth Demon Venerable to you. Supreme True Marshal was hesitant. However, when he thought about the incident at the Black Wind Stream, he knew that since Yi Chen was able to survive, he must be stronger than a Supreme. Dang dang dang. Suddenly, the 9 Revolution star rang with alarms. The alien race army had invaded the White Tiger starfield. The 10 military planets of the White Tiger starfield had long since been ready. Fleets were assembled in the starry sky. Last time, half of the Black Tortoise starfield was occupied by the alien races. This time, the White Tiger starfield was their territory, and they couldn't afford to lose. Many people that Yi Chen knew were present in the fleet. Duguju, Chu Zhongtian, Golden-Robed Emperor, Green-Robed Emperor, Dantai Mingyue, Yan Qingxian, Murong Qingqing, Su Jing, Ajiu, Ling Fifan, and so on. Yi Chen's 3 disciples were also present: Yan Jianhui, Dongfang Bai, and Ling Xinghan. They didn't want to be under Yi Chen's protection for the rest of their lives. This war was an opportunity for them to temper themselves. If they could survive, they would have a chance to break through to the 8th layer of life and death realm. The white-haired Duguju stood on the bow of the black puppet battleship. Carrying a saber on his back, his gaze was as sharp as a blade. It had been many years since the Azura World Arena ended, and he had become even more powerful. Chapter 13:13. The starry sky was like an ocean, deep and unfathomable. This was the border between the White Tiger starfield and Black Tortoise starfield. In all directions, it was a vast expanse of nothingness. There were no planets, no light, only asteroids that flowed like a river. These asteroids were affected by the gravitational pull of the 2 starfields, drifting left and right. Standing on these asteroids was no different than a drop of water in the vast ocean. Buzz. Suddenly, a large expanse of meteors were shattered by the distorted spacetime energy, and then numerous puppet battleships appeared. In next to no time, the dense black mass of puppet battleships practically covered half the starry sky, causing this area of nothingness that was completely devoid of light to become even more oppressive and suffocating. These were the battleships of the Human Alliance. On the other side of the asteroids, the space-time distorted, and the battleships of the Demons Alliance also appeared. Kill! Without any words, the moment the 2 sides appeared, the battleships accelerated, blasting away the dense asteroids and rushing toward the other side. Along the way, countless beams of light shot out, red, yellow, and blue, incomparably dazzling. In the void of the starry sky, a frightening blade light shot out. A quasi-venerable wielded a blade and chopped down, instantly clearing a line of enemy battleship. Soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals. Soon, the battle reached its climax, with experts falling everywhere. As for the ordinary life and death realm soldiers, they were simply cannon fodder. Several hundred light-years away, several figures that were several tens of feet tall appeared. Among them, a 15 zhang tall figure gradually became clearer. It was Yi Chen. This was Yi Chen's first time participating in a supreme war. Unlike ordinary wars, the death rate would not be that high, but the impact would be 1,000 times greater. Sweeping his gaze over his own camp, Yi Chen faintly nodded. The human alliance had quite a lot of supremes, a total of 54. 18 from the human alliance, 12 from the giant tribe, 11 from the barbarian tribe, and 13 from the minor tribes attached to the human alliance. Individually, these minor tribes were not powerful, but together they had 13 supremes, which was not a force to be reckoned with. It was believed that these 54 Supreme Masters were not the full strength of the human clan alliance. After all, every race would reserve some strength and would not reveal all of it unless it was a matter of life and death. For example, the disciples of the true Martial Supreme and the Golden Buddha Supreme, the Xuanhe Supreme and the Ananda Supreme, did not come. They were still patrolling the Black Wind Stream. In the Human Race Alliance, the human race had the most Supreme Masters. Including himself, there were 2 Supreme Masters. The Golden Buddha Supreme was still in seclusion, followed by the Giant Race and the Barbarian Race, each having 1 Supreme Master. As for the other minor races, there was only 1 Supreme Master. After asking Langya Supreme, he found out that it was the Giant Tree Supreme of the Giant Tree Race. Thinking about it, it wasn't easy for a Supreme Master to appear. The stronger the race, the easier it was for a Supreme Master to appear. As for powerful sovereigns, there were many more. Powerful sovereigns were the core strength of a race. Although their current role couldn't compare to that of a super sovereign, their importance wasn't any lower than that of a super sovereign. After all, only with enough powerful sovereigns could a certain number of super sovereigns be born. Otherwise, there would be a situation where there was a shortage of young and old. Glancing around, Yi Chen looked at the opposite side. The Demons Alliance had 5 more sovereigns than the Human Race Alliance, a total of 59. They also had 2 more Supreme Masters. These 2 were Corrupt Devil Heavenly Master and Flawless Demon Master. Yi Chen vaguely sensed that Corrupt Devil Heavenly Master's injuries hadn't recovered yet. His aura was a little unstable. Thinking about it, it wasn't that easy to recover from a direct hit from a saint weapon. The Golden Buddha Supreme had been in seclusion for hundreds of years before finally expelling the power of the bloodthirsty spear. After all, Corrupt Devil Heavenly Master was in the martial path Yuan Shin state, so it would be even more difficult for him to recover. Even so, Corrupt Devil Heavenly Master was still the biggest threat after the Heavenly Demon Master. On the human race's side, except for the true Martial Supreme, no one could stop him. The Golden Buddha Supreme had broken through to the 9th transformation, so he might be able to stop Corrupt Devil Heavenly Master. However, that was only because of his powerful defense. In a frontal attack, the Golden Buddha Supreme was most likely not a match for Corrupt Devil Heavenly Master. Supreme Dual Extinction, Supreme Hydralisk, I didn't expect you to join the Demons Alliance. The true Martial Supreme's eyes fell on the 2 enemy Supreme. One was a Supreme covered in bone fragments, and the other was a female Supreme with a snake tail. These 2 Supreme came from 2 small races, and they had been roped in by the Human Race Alliance before. Supreme Dual Extinction said in a clear voice, "We always have to make choices in life. I'm sorry, but the Demons Alliance is my best choice." Supreme Hydralisk said, "This time, you will definitely lose. My choice is never wrong." "Really?" "Not necessarily," the true Martial Supreme said in a deep voice. "Haha, true Martial, Hydralisk is right. This time, you will definitely lose. Why don't you just admit defeat? I don't want much, just half of the White Tiger starfield. The Heavenly Demon Master held the bloodthirsty spear and laughed in high spirit. Heavenly Demon Master, the human race and the demon race have been fighting for countless years. When did the demons ever conquer the human race? This time, your extravagant hopes will still be in vain. In that case, let's fight. The Heavenly Demon Master sneered and waved his hand. Seeing this, a supreme demons walked out. Who dares to fight with me, the Shadow Demon Master? The Shadow Demon Master was just an ordinary supreme, but he was not afraid. The Supreme War had its own rules. Ordinary Supreme would fight against Ordinary Supreme, and Strong Supreme would fight against Strong Supreme. If there were many Ordinary Supreme on one side, then a few Ordinary Supreme could fight against one. It was the same for Strong Supreme and Super Supreme. The Supreme War would last for a long time, so there was no need to worry about the outcome. Therefore, having one more or one less Supreme was completely different. If the overall strength of both sides was similar, having one more Supreme would be the last straw that broke the camel's back, and it could completely change the situation. Supreme Shadow, your opponent is me. The human race's Phantom Supreme stood out. He and the Shadow Demon Master were sworn enemies. One was a shadow and the other was a phantom. When they moved, they came and went like ghosts, and their styles were similar. Whoosh, whoosh. The two immediately started fighting. Time and space were like folded crystals. Their figures could be seen everywhere. In just a short while, they had fought dozens of light years away. 1-on-1 or 1-on-2. In just a short while, both Ordinary Supreme and Strong Supreme had their own opponent. Earth Demon Master, do you dare to fight? The Demons Alliance's Supreme weren't surprised that Yi Chun stayed in the camp of the Super Supreme. Of course, deep in their hearts they had their doubts. It had only been a few years, but this new Supreme of the human race had actually reached such a high level. When they heard Yi Chun call him Earth Demon Master, some of the Super Supremes sneered. He really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Flawless Demon Master was the weakest existence among them. Did he think that by suppressing Flawless Demon Master, he could challenge the Earth Demon Master? Hee kid, I will let you die very, very miserably. I wonder if you can resist as much as the Golden Buddha Supreme. The Earth Demon Master walked out gloomily, staring at Yi Chun as if he was looking at a dead man. Chapter 13-14. The Golden Buddha Supreme is the pillar of the human clan. You can't be compared to him. I will deal with you. With his left hand behind his back, Yi Chun said confidently. You're courting death. Earth Demon Venerable's eyes shot out a terrifying light. Earth Demon, don't be rash. Remember, you must kill this guy. Don't give him time to grow. Sky Demon Venerable transmitted his voice to Earth Demon Venerable. Don't worry. If it was me in the past, it would be difficult to kill this guy. But now, with the twisted dagger, it won't take more than 10 moves to kill him. Earth Demon Venerable licked his lips. His body seemed to be moving slowly, but it was actually very fast. The void on both sides roared and distorted. Yi Chun, be careful. True Martial Supreme warned Yi Chun when he saw Earth Demon Venerable rushing over. I know what I'm doing. Yi Chun quickly went up to meet him. There was a distance of hundreds of billions of miles between the two. But this distance was not enough for them to burst out with their speed. They collided with each other. Boom, an earth-shattering sound spread out. Both of them were sent flying. Yi Chun was sent flying hundreds of billions of miles away, while Earth Demon Venerable was also sent flying hundreds of millions of miles away. However, neither of them used any weapons. One used a palm technique, while the other used a finger sword. Yi Chun was much weaker. After all, in terms of real strength, Yi Chun was barely a mid-level Supreme Master, while Earth Demon Venerable was a veteran mid-level Supreme Master. Quite strong. Yi Chun was slightly excited, as it was his first time fighting against a position Demon Venerable. As expected of the Earth Demon Venerable, the nemesis of the Golden Buddha Supreme. If I didn't have the heavenly sword, it would be impossible for me to suppress him. How is this possible? Didn't Flawless Demon Venerable say that he only has the strength of a low-level Supreme Master? Earth Demon Venerable was shocked. Gosh, he actually clashed with Earth Demon Venerable and was not injured at all. Amazing! The human race has picked up a treasure this time. To think that such a terrifying genius would be born. Looks like the luck of the human race hasn't weakened at all. Instead, it's getting stronger. Yi Chen's strength and monstrous talent strengthened the confidence of the Human Race Alliance's Supremes. To be honest, it was not that many of them had not thought about it, but they had been members of the Human Race Alliance since ancient times. If they betrayed the Human Race Alliance, not only would they be hated by the Human Race Alliance, they would also not have much status in the Demons Alliance. No matter who it was, they would not have too much trust in traitors, unless they did not care about their betrayal. But in that case they would have even less status. Celestial Demon Sovereign frowned slightly. The way he looked at Yi Chen was as gloomy as one could imagine. The Demons Alliance would not allow such a genius to appear in the human race. The other party's monstrous level made him feel that a monster with the bloodline of a great demon king had appeared in the human race. That fellow actually became stronger again. Flawless Demon Venerable's mouth was wide open. Old demon, go all out to kill him, I don't want to see any accidents happen, Heavenly Demon Commander hurriedly said. Understood. Taking a deep breath, Earth Demon Sovereign let out a long roar. His long black hair shot into the sky, reaching deep into the void, covering the entire space. Both of his hands were pitch black as he slapped out. The pitch-black palm wind turned into countless evil ghosts that pounced towards Yi Chen. Among the evil ghosts were the Evil Ghost King and the Evil Ghost Old Ancestor. They surrounded Golden Buddha Supreme, wanting to devour his flesh. Supreme Palm Art, Thousand Ghosts Greeting. Earth Demon Sovereign had never thought of using Thousand Ghosts Greeting to kill Yi Chen. That was impossible. It was extremely difficult for a Super Supreme to kill a Super Supreme. Even if the other party could not defeat you, they could still escape. Unless your speed was much faster than the other party, you could only continue chasing until you no longer wanted to. The purpose of Thousand Ghosts Greeting was to entangle Yi Chen, not giving him a chance to escape. Die! With a flip of his right hand, a malevolent-looking dagger appeared in the Earth Demon Sovereign's hand. As this dagger appeared, time and space started to distort. Even the Earth Demon Sovereign's palm started to distort. It was as though this dagger could distort everything. Swish! With his speed increasing, Earth Demon Sovereign was like a fish in water. He shuttled through the endless evil spirits and arrived before Yi Chen in an instant, stabbing the dagger over. Given the strangeness of the twisted dagger, all of Yi Chen's methods were useless. The twisted dagger was more than enough to distort the opponent's defense. Saint Tool! Yi Chen was startled. He instantly unsheathed the heavenly sword. Clang! Sparks illuminated the deathly silent void. Earth Demon Sovereign was sent flying backwards. As for Yi Chen, he also retreated diagonally. His opponent's dagger was too strange. It actually twisted the trajectory of the heavenly sword. If it wasn't for the fact that the heavenly sword was a saint sword, Yi Chen would definitely not be able to block this dagger. Saint Tool! Earth Demon Sovereign was even more surprised than Yi Chen. The twisted dagger came from a miracle. Hundreds of years ago, the Demons Alliance started a war against the Human Alliance because they had obtained the Bloodthirst Spear. Hundreds of years later, the Demons Alliance started a war against the Human Alliance again because they had corrupt demon Heavenly Master and the Twisted Dagger. In their eyes, this was heaven's blessing for the Demons Alliance. However, where did this Saint Sword of the Human Alliance come from? They had never heard of a miracle appearing in the Human Alliance's territory. I really didn't expect that the Human Alliance would have another Saint Tool. Sky Demon Sovereign squinted his eyes and said coldly. Supreme True Marshal put away his surprise. Same to you. Flawless Demon Sovereign, it's your turn. Sky Demon Sovereign looked at Flawless Demon Sovereign. Hearing this, Flawless Demon Sovereign walked out and looked at the Supreme of the Human Alliance. A tall figure stepped out. It was the Bronze Supreme. You are no match for me. Flawless Demon Sovereign shook his head. His goal was to stall a Supreme. Fighting against a Supreme would be a waste of effort. We'll find out later. The Human Alliance had lost 2 Supreme. Even if the Golden Buddha Supreme returned, they would lose one. Therefore, he had to go. Otherwise, the situation would be even more dangerous for the Human Alliance. In that case, I'll take care of you first. Flawless Demon Sovereign didn't waste any time and charged at the Bronze Supreme. He wanted to take care of his opponent in the shortest time possible. Every Supreme had an opponent. Blood Drop Sovereign of Yiksha clan wielded a saint weapon, Blood Drop Spear, and Storm Sovereign of Barbarian race clashed. The battle between the two was comparable to the battle between Earth Demon Sovereign and Yi Chen. Saint weapons clashed against each other, sweeping through the boundless void. Evil spirit races Evil Soul Old Ancestor and the giant races Supreme Mountain Chio also had saint tools. The Evil Soul Old Ancestor's saint tool was the 1000 Poison Soul Staff, while the Mountain Chio's saint tool was the Mountain Splitting Axe. In the end, only Corrupt Demon Heavenly Master, Sky Demon Sovereign, and Supreme True Marshal were left. Sky Demon Sovereign grinned. Looks like the Golden Buddha Supreme won't be able to make it. Corrupt Demon Heavenly Master, you can attack at will. Kill as many as you can. In terms of seniority, Corrupt Demon Heavenly Master was many times older than Sky Demon Sovereign. His strength at his peak had also surpassed Sky Demon Sovereign's. However, in this era where strength determined status, the strong were respected. Corrupt Demon Heavenly Master was very clear about this. Just as he was about to move, a golden light swept over from the depths of space and time. Wherever the golden light passed, time and space froze. Then, a huge golden palm with the swastika word on its palm struck at Corrupt Demon Heavenly Master. This palm gave off an aura that could shake the world and pierce through everything. Dang! Corrupt Demon Heavenly Master's palm pressed forward. Instantly, his body staggered and retreated. Amitba, I'm late. Golden light flashed, and the Golden Buddha Supreme appeared. His height had increased from 6 feet to 7 feet. His foundation was undeniably number 1 in the universe. Chapter 13-15. Golden Body 9 Revolutions, 9th Revolution. Heavenly Demon Sovereign said word by word. I didn't expect someone to reach the 9th revolution of the Golden Body 9 revolutions in this era. That's good. I haven't fought someone who has reached the 9th revolution in a long time. The last time I fought was with Golden Body Supreme. Heavenly Master Rot Devil's face flashed with fighting spirit. The Golden Body Sovereign was many times stronger than the Golden Buddha Sovereign. He had also cultivated the 9th transformation Golden Body to the pinnacle of the 9th transformation. He was a true legendary sovereign. However, the current him was no longer the him of the past. Fighting with a legendary sovereign would be courting death. Golden Buddha, you're finally here. True Marshal Supreme breathed a sigh of relief. With Golden Buddha here, he could deal with Heavenly Demon Sovereign with peace of mind. Golden Buddha Supreme nodded. I've made you worry. Leave him to me. Golden Buddha Supreme's body seemed to be made of the purest gold. Even his eyebrows and pupils were golden. Just by standing there, he gave off an invincible feeling that he could suppress tens of thousands of demons. As for Heavenly Master Rot Devil, he was like a demonic shadow. He didn't seem to have any weight. Wherever he looked, the void began to decay and shatter. Corrosive God Fists. Vast Buddha Light. The two of them immediately used their respective ultimate technique. Green Fist winds and golden waves collided, but in the end it was still Empyrean Rot Devil who gained the upper hand. Golden Buddha Supreme was enveloped by endless fist winds, and the surrounding space and time around him was corroded to the point of being riddled with holes, dripping with green mucus. Sure enough, Golden Buddha Supreme is much weaker in terms of attack. Dozens of light years away, Yi Chen was fighting while watching True Martial Supreme's battle. The moment Gold Buddha Supreme appeared, he heaved a sigh of relief, just like True Martial Supreme. But, as Rotten Devil Heavenly Venerable gained the absolute upper hand, Yi Chen couldn't help but frown. Golden Body 9 transformations had probably raised Gold Buddha Supreme from mid-grade Supreme to high-grade Supreme. However, Rotten Devil Heavenly Venerable was a quasi-legendary Supreme. Only Sky Demon Venerable and True Martial Supreme, who wielded Saint artifacts, could injure him. I wonder if the 9th revolution of the Golden Body 9 revolutions can withstand the power of corrosion? A strong defense didn't mean that it was indestructible. For example, steel was hard enough, but some liquids could also instantly corrode steel. The green fist wind dissipated and a golden light lit up. The Golden Buddha Supreme Being was unharmed. The 9 revolutions' golden body was almost flawless, and the corrosive power could do nothing to it. The only way to break the 9 revolutions' golden body was through energy consumption. As long as the Golden Buddha Supreme's Zhen Yuan was used up, then the 9 revolutions' golden body would have no energy source, and naturally, it would win without a fight. However, the Golden Buddha Supreme's foundation was much stronger than True Martial Supreme and Sky Demon Venerables. Exhausting his Zhen Yuan was not something ordinary people could do. Sky Demon Venerable had once ambushed the Golden Buddha Supreme, but after fighting for several days and nights, his Zhen Yuan did not decrease much. As expected of the 9th transformation golden body, Yi Chen retracted his gaze. He knew that there was no need to worry about the Golden Buddha Supreme Being, unless Empyrean Rot Devil had a saint artifact in his hands. Brat, you dare to be distracted in front of me? How could Earth Demon Venerable not notice that Yi Chen was distracted just now? He could not help but be enraged. The twisted dagger turned into millions of twisted arcs, attacking towards Yi Chen. With the Heaven Sword in hand, Yi Chen protected himself perfectly. Up until now, Yi Chen found that even saint artifacts had different levels. Although his Heaven Sword's origin was damaged, it was still a level stronger than the opponent's dagger. At the beginning, because he did not know about the special characteristics of the twisted dagger, he was almost hit. Earth Demon Venerable, your era has passed. In the world of experts, if you do not advance, you will fall. Yi Chen mercilessly attacked the opponent. He was now waiting for Earth Demon Venerable to use his trump card. Once Earth Demon Venerable used all his trump cards, it would be time for Yi Chen to go all out. The Golden Buddha Supreme's arrival made Sky Demon Venerable's wishful thinking fall through. According to his estimation, he had at least an 80% chance of winning against the Human Race Alliance. True Martial, watch my spear. Sky Demon Venerable wore the Sky Demon Sacred Armor and held the Bloodthirst Spear. He swept with his spear like a dancing blood dragon, destroying the void. Come on! Supreme True Martial slashed at the blood dragon with his True Martial Divine Mace. Rumble! The battle between the two of them surpassed everyone else. They had saint artifacts and were also high-level Supremes. Their strength had already reached the level of legendary Supremes. Even the Golden Buddha Supremacy, Heavenly Venerable Rot Devil, wasn't a match for them. Dang, dang, dang. Not only were their attacks strong, but their supreme martial arts were also exquisite. There was no pause between their moves. They were executed at will. Light flashed and the two of them came near Yi Chen and Earth Demon Venerable. Sky Demon Venerable's eyes flashed. He waved the Bloodthirst Spear and 3 spear radiants attacked Yi Chen. Sky Demon Venerable, don't you think you are too shameless? Supreme True Martial's speed exploded and he blocked the 3 spear radiance attacks. With Sky Demon Venerable's strength, The 3-spear radiance attacks weren't something that Yi Chen could block. Once Yi Chen was injured by the bloodthirst spear, Earth Demon Venerable would have a chance. The winner takes all and the loser takes all. That is the rule of the heavens. Sky Demon Venerable didn't feel ashamed at all. He would still attack Yi Chen if he had the chance. That was close. Yi Chen didn't plan to fight Sky Demon Venerable yet. That would be an act of overestimating himself. Moreover, the bloodthirst spear seemed to be stronger than the sky sword unless the sky sword could recover. Yi Chen's sword aura strengthened and he kept attacking, forcing Earth Demon Venerable to retreat dozens of light years away from the battle between Sky Demon Venerable and Supreme True Martial. Heart Demon Kill. Suddenly, an aura 100 times stronger than before exploded from Earth Demon Venerable. The twisted dagger stabbed at Yi Chen at a speed that surpassed the limits of the heavens. Time and space meant nothing to him. Heart Force eruption is so strong. Yi Chen was shocked. Heart Force had peaks and troughs. If one could maintain the troughs at a high level and increase the peaks infinitely, then one's battle prowess would increase greatly. The two's heart force had been maintained at a high level since the beginning of the battle. He didn't expect Earth Demon Venerable to continue erupting his heart force and increase his strength by 100 times. Caught off guard, Yi Chen only had time to raise the sky sword horizontally. Clang! The sky sword collided with Yi Chen's body and sent him flying. Fortunately, his immortal sword body gave him a strong defense, so he wasn't injured. He's not injured? Earth Demon Venerable gritted his teeth. His heart demon kill consumed a lot of his heart power. If he used it too many times, his heart power would reach a low point. He originally thought that even if he could not hit Yi Chen with his twisted dagger, he would at least be able to wound him. None of the supreme beings can be underestimated. This should be Earth Demon Sovereign's final trump card. With this thought in mind, Yi Chen squinted his eyes. Earth Demon Sovereign, take my sword as well. With his heart force erupting, Yi Chen used Omniscient Nature, which had the most variations. Omniscient Nature's variations had also surpassed the limits of the heavens. Chapter 13:16. Danger. As soon as the boundless manifestation sword aura appeared, Earth Demon Sovereign's face turned pale. If Yi Chen didn't have the holy sword in his hand, he wouldn't be too worried even if he was hit. Between Super Supremes, it was very difficult to injure each other. Saint artifacts were an exception. However, Yi Chen had the holy sword in his hand. As long as he was grazed, his foundation would be injured. I can't be hit. Earth Demon Venerable poured demonic energy into the twisted dagger. In a short time, he consumed more demonic energy than before. Under normal circumstances, there was a limit to how much energy a weapon could be infused. Beyond this limit, no matter how much energy was infused, it wouldn't increase its power much. It might even cause the weapon to explode. Naturally, the holy artifact couldn't explode, but the increase in power was limited. But it could at least slightly increase the power of the twisted dagger. The twisted dagger created layers of illusions. The violent power of distortion overlapped, making Earth Demon Venerable feel like he was in another world, a blurry world separated by countless layers of space. The next moment, countless bubbles disappeared, and the power of distortion was peeled off layer by layer. The reason why the omniscient nature was so powerful was that the sword art pointed directly to the heart, and the changes were close to infinite. Even the enemy's heart could be reflected. However, the twisted dagger was a sacred tool after all, and it contained incredible power. The sword momentum of the omniscient nature could not directly lock on to the Earth Demon Venerable, and it was distorted. I blocked it. Earth Demon Venerable heaved a sigh of relief. It seems that the opponent is just SOSO. I underestimated the twisted dagger. Earth Demon Venerable's confidence grew after blocking Yi Chen's sword. To be honest, his confidence had been shaken before. This dagger's effect is to distort everything. Then what effect does my heavenly sword have? Holy artifacts had their own effect. For example, the twisted dagger contained the power of distortion, the bloodthirsty spear contained the power of bloodthirsty, the true martial divine mace contained the power of unparalleled, and the blood-dripping spear had the power of dripping blood. The others, such as the storm hammer, the thousand-poisoned soul staff, and the mountain-splitting axe, all had their own powerful effects. This was one of the main reasons why holy artifacts were so powerful. While Yi Chun and Earth Demon Venerable were fighting, the other Supremes were also fighting. Among them, the Bronze Supreme Martial Artist had it the hardest. After all, he was only a top-notch Supreme Being. Perhaps he was one of the best among the Supreme Beings, but when he encountered a Super Supreme Being, he was suppressed from the start to the end. Fortunately, Flawless Demon Sovereign was a 100 transformation demon, which was weaker in terms of combat. Even so, Bronze Supreme Being still suffered some light injuries. Even his Supreme Being armor was unable to completely offset the opponent's attack. If I can cultivate the Bronze Battle Body to the 5th level, he won't be able to hurt me. The Bronze Dragon Bloodline's strongest body-refining martial art was the Bronze Battle Body. The Bronze Battle Body had a total of 5 levels, and as long as one cultivated it to the 5th level, they would be able to withstand the attack of a Super Sovereign. Of course, the most powerful body-refining martial art of the Dragon Clan was the Golden Battle Body, which was only slightly inferior to the Golden Body Transformation 9 transformations. The reason why Yi Chen was able to create the Immortal Sword Body was that he had studied the countless black smoke in the Black Wind Stream and his own Immortal Sword Soul. Compared to the Bronze Sovereign, the Golden Buddha Sovereign was much more relaxed. After breaking through to the 9th transformation of the 9 transformations Golden Body, there was almost no one who could hurt him except for a divine weapon. Moreover, this was the early stage of the 9th transformation of the 9 transformations Golden Body. Once he cultivated to the peak of the 9 transformations Golden Body, even a legendary sovereign wouldn't be able to hurt him. Dang. Dang. Heavenly Lord Corrupt Devil's martial art was a supreme martial art, exquisite and extraordinary. Even Heavenly Devil Sovereign and True Martial Sovereign couldn't compare to it. In a short period of time, the Golden Buddha Sovereign suffered no less than dozens of attacks. Really troublesome. Heavenly Lord Corrupt Devil was a little annoyed. He didn't have a divine weapon, so he didn't know how long it would take to exhaust the opponent's Zhen Yuan. Although the ratio of Zhen Yuan consumption between the two was 10-1, the Golden Buddha Sovereign's Zhen Yuan was the strongest among all the sovereigns. The Zhen Yuan contained in the 70-meter-tall golden body was too vast. Corrosive demonic light. Suddenly, 2 black beams shot out of Heavenly Lord Corrupt Devil's eyes and entered the Golden Buddha Sovereign's forehead. The Golden Buddha Sovereign felt dizzy, but he quickly recovered. Upon reaching the Supreme Realm, soul attack secret arts were nearly useless, unless they were transcendent soul attack secret arts. But transcendent soul attack secret arts were even rarer than transcendent martial arts. The vast majority of legendary Supremes weren't able to create one. As for Empyrean Corrupt Devil's corrosive demonic light, it was only one of the more powerful transcendent soul attack secret arts. My martial path Yuan Shin is too seriously injured, and I only have 1,000th of my peak power. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to block it. Heavenly Lord Corrupt Devil didn't use soul attacks anymore. If he recovered the power of a legendary sovereign, the Golden Buddha Sovereign would more or less be injured. The same soul attack secret art, when used by different people, had different power. The most intense battle was between True Martial Sovereign and Heavenly Devil Sovereign. But the battle between the two was also the most boring. The main reason was that both of them had divine weapon armors. True Martial Sovereign's divine weapon armor was a little broken, but he didn't give Heavenly Devil Sovereign a chance to hit his body. Some aftershocks couldn't shake him at all, so it was impossible for him to fight head-on and get injured instead. Again and again they tested each other. Both of them were exploring the mysteries of each other's divine weapon, preparing for the next attack. That's right, the heavenly sword once contained the light sword will. Could the effect of the heavenly sword be the power of light? Yi Chen used all his sword skills once, but he could only suppress Earth Devil Sovereign at most. He couldn't break through his opponent's power of distortion. He even tried to use soul attacks. He didn't cultivate a supreme soul attack secret art, because the netherworld sacred I would improve along with the realm, so there was no need to cultivate a supreme soul attack secret art. But the power of distortion of the distortion dagger could even distort soul attacks, so it couldn't make Earth Devil Sovereign dizzy for a short time. Of course, Earth Devil Sovereign's supreme soul attack secret art couldn't do anything to Yi Chen. Yi Chen had the netherworld sacred eye, the immortal sword soul and the destruction sword soul, so any soul attack was useless against him. Besides the destruction sword will in the heavenly sword, Yi Chen also transferred the not-so-powerful light sword will into it. As the light sword will entered, the heavenly sword seemed to have spirituality, and it shone brightly. Just as I thought. Yi Chen rejoiced in his heart. The power of light wasn't just pure power. With it, all the means of the enemy wouldn't be able to deceive his eyes. This was a righteous power, and he could only face it head-on. Boundless nature was used again. What? Earth Devil Sovereign was horrified to find that the power of distortion couldn't distort the opponent's sword momentum. This sword momentum contained the power of light, and it directly enveloped him. The distortion dagger was much weaker than the heavenly sword. 3 wriggling sword marks appeared on Earth Devil Sovereign's body, shuttling back and forth on his body. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't recover. When the inextinguishable power encountered the sword marks, it was quickly consumed, which scared Earth Devil Sovereign so much that he didn't dare to use the inextinguishable power that came with the 8th rank spirit body. Chapter 13:17. Not good. Heaven Demon Venerable had been paying attention to Earth Demon Venerable's situation. Seeing Yi Chen injure Earth Demon Venerable with a single strike, he was both shocked and furious. After being struck by a saint artifact, even he wouldn't be much better off, let alone Earth Demon Venerable. Haha, with such a genius, my human race will definitely prosper. Supreme True Marshal laughed happily. He hadn't been this happy in a long time. The long period of pressure had made him feel incomparably tired. Only killing could make him forget everything. What? Earth Demon Venerable is injured? Not good. Now that Earth Demon Venerable is defeated, what should we do? Why are there always geniuses in the human race? Each one is more stunning than the other. The heavens are really too biased. The battle between Supremes was long and drawn out. Everyone was paying attention to each other. Yi Chen, you dare to injure me? Earth Demon Venerable roared in disbelief. Every time the sword wound on his body made a circle, it would take away a part of his essence, energy, and soul, causing a gap to appear in his foundation. So what if I injure you? Yi Chen sneered. Heart Demon kill. Erupting with his heart force, Earth Demon Venerable threw out the twisting dagger in his hand. The twisting dagger hissed in the air, and in the next moment, it transformed into a single-horned black snake. The single-horned black snake slithered rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of Yi Chen. Ding! Similarly erupting with his heart force, Yi Chen sent the single-horned black snake flying with a single strike. However, the single-horned black snake seemed to have a mind of its own. Every time it was sent flying, it would fly back and attack Yi Chen from an even more crafty angle. Once, twice, dozens of times. Yi Chen was clearly stronger than Earth Demon Venerable, but at this moment, he was in a passive situation. The twisting dagger was too strange, and the angle of attack was crafty. Why can't I break through his defense? Earth Demon Venerable was incomparably vexed. There was a limit to his heart force eruption. If this move couldn't injure Yi Chen, then his heart force would fall to the bottom. In the end, Earth Demon Venerable still couldn't injure Yi Chen. Although he was much stronger than Yi Chen in terms of heart force, he was still lacking a little if he wanted to break through Yi Chen's defense. Death Cleave. Yi Chen could sense that the Earth Demon Venerable's aura had become much weaker. He unleashed his death cut, and the overwhelming sword shadows engulfed the Earth Demon Venerable. Puff! 2 sword shadows streaked across the Earth Demon Venerable's shoulder and waist, leaving behind a sword mark on each of them. Including these 2 sword scars, there were a total of 5 sword scars on the Earth Demon Venerable's body. These 5 sword scars were like 5 blood-sucking worms, sucking the source energy from the Earth Demon Venerable's body. Meanwhile, the Earth Demon Venerable's heart force was at its lowest point. Coupled with the fact that he had been injured by the Heaven Sword, his strength had dropped to an unprecedented level. Sword Burial Technique. 5 Elements Slash. All things in the world. Yi Chen seized the opportunity and used his ultimate move. If he could eliminate the Earth Demon Venerable, it would definitely be a blow to the demons, and the human race would have one less enemy. Samsara. 7. 10. When the number of sword scars on his body reached 10, the Earth Demon Venerable was afraid. If this continued, he would become weaker and weaker until he was killed by Yi Chen. Once he died, there would be nothing left. Sky Demon. Earth Demon Venerable asked Heavenly Demon Venerable for help. You, come to me. The Sky Demon Venerable's face was gloomy. Yi Chen was the biggest variable in this Supreme Being battle. He was also a variable that he had never expected. As for the Golden Buddha Supreme, he was another variable. When these 2 variables were combined, it was enough to turn the situation around. Hearing this, the Earth Demon Venerable's speed erupted as he flew towards the Sky Demon Venerable. An opening appeared in the Sky Demon domain, and the Earth Demon Venerable entered. Boom! Boom! Supreme True Martial took the opportunity to attack, causing the Sky Demon domain to distort. However, the Sky Demon Saint armor was too strong. Supreme True Martial's attacks only made the Sky Demon Venerable retreat a dozen steps. Supreme True Martial, I'll go help Supreme Bronze. Seeing that the Earth Demon Venerable had the protection of the Sky Demon Venerable, Yi Chen felt that it was a pity. With the Sky Demon Venerable's protection, not to mention him, even Supreme True Martial wouldn't be able to injure the Earth Demon Venerable. Moreover, there was quite a gap between him and the Sky Demon Venerable and Supreme True Martial. Even if he helped, it would be useless. He might as well help the others. All right, I don't need your help here. Supreme True Martial nodded. The battle between Bronze Supremacy and Flawless Demon Supremacy was completely one-sided. After all, Flawless Demon Supremacy was a supreme supremacy. His attacks were many times stronger than Bronze Supremacy's. Even with the supreme armor reducing 90% of his attacks, it was still difficult for him to endure. Bronze Supremacy estimated that he would be unable to hold on for another quarter of an hour at most. Dang. Just as Flawless Demon Venerable was about to attack Supreme Bronze again, a sharp sword appeared out of thin air and sent Flawless Demon Venerable tumbling back. Yi Chen. Flawless Demon Venerable was shocked. Supreme Bronze, you go help the others. Leave this demon to me. Yi Chen ignored Flawless Demon Venerable and said to Supreme Bronze, that would be for the best. The Bronze Supremacy heaved a sigh of relief. He could finally take a breather. His injuries weren't too serious. It was just that fighting Flawless Demon Supremacy had put him under a lot of pressure. He wasn't afraid of anyone below Supremacy. We meet again. Yi Chen stood upright in the void with the Heaven's Sword pointing downward. Being stared at by Yi Chen, Flawless Demon Venerable felt like he had nowhere to run. Yi Chen, don't be too arrogant. You should know that you have truly offended the demons by obstructing our great cause. In the future, we demons will go all out to kill you. There will be no escape for you. Flawless Demon Venerable threatened. With a smile, Yi Chen mocked, It seems that the demons and humans have been enemies since ancient times. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Also, I welcome you to find trouble with me at all costs. I'm happy to oblige. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Yi Chen was a battle maniac. Without battle, what was the point of pursuing the pinnacle of sword Dao? Cut the crap, take this sword. With a flash, Yi Chen thrust his sword at Flawless Demon Venerable. Flawless Demon Venerable found that he couldn't dodge this sword and could only resist with all his might. Puff! This sword was too powerful. The dagger in Flawless Demon Venerable's hand was turned around and pierced into his own chest. He spurted out a mouthful of blood as his chest caved in. Along the way, Flawless Demon Venerable kept spurting out blood. The dagger in his hand was a supreme weapon, while Yi Chen's was a saint's sword. The power of the saint weapon was cancelled out by the dagger and supreme armor. It was not something he could handle, and his origin was damaged. Die. The most versatile skill, 10,000 forms of limitless phenomenon, was displayed. Bubbles appeared and disappeared. Flawless Demon Venerable felt like he was being cut into pieces. His flesh and blood flew everywhere, and his bones and flesh were separated. However, a Super Supreme was still a Super Supreme. This sword still couldn't kill Flawless Demon Venerable. Killing intent surged in Yi Chen's eyes as he continued to display his killing moves. Brat, you dare? I, Heavenly Demon Venerable, swear that if you kill him today, I will make sure you die without a complete corpse in the future. I will kill all of your 9 generations. Heavenly Demon Venerable roared. It was too late for him to save Flawless Demon Venerable. He regretted that he didn't give the order to retreat immediately, which led to Flawless Demon Venerable being in a situation where he was sure to die. Hundreds of petals danced in the air as a sharp sword light flashed by. The flesh and blood of Flawless Demon Venerable was instantly destroyed. Chapter 13:18. Right at this moment, Heavenly Venerable Rotten Devil, who was battling Golden Buddha Supreme, flickered and instantly appeared behind Yi Chen like a flickering light. A green spiraling fist wind rushed toward Yi Chen. Heavenly Sovereign Rotting Devil was a legendary sovereign at his peak. Although he was currently in martial Yuan spirit state and had been injured by True Martial Supreme's divine rapier, his strength was not even 1/10,000th of his peak. However, a legendary sovereign was a legendary sovereign after all, and the martial skill he used was a supreme martial skill. Yi Chen only had time to take a step sideways before he was struck by the fist wind. Like a windmill, Yi Chen spun hundreds of times. His entire body was wrapped up in the green storm, sacrificing a flawless demon master in exchange for the life of a peerless genius. It's worth it. Rotten Demon had been waiting for a chance to kill Yi Chen. Therefore, even if Flawless Demon Master was killed by Yi Chen, he didn't care. As long as Yi Chen was dead, the human race would lose. Now, his wait was worth it. Although Yi Chen had a sacred weapon, it was a sacred sword, not a sacred armor. How could it defend against his all-out attack? Even a legendary supreme would suffer after being hit by my corrosive spiral wave, let alone you. Rotten Demon Master sneered. True Martial Supreme was stunned. The Golden Buddha Supreme was also stunned. Sky Demon Master's expression brightened up. Just like Rotten Demon Master, he was more than happy to sacrifice Flawless Demon Master in exchange for Yi Chen. He didn't particularly care about Flawless Demon Master's strength. It would be great if he had Flawless Demon Master, but it didn't matter if he didn't. After all, Flawless Demon Master had always been hiding in the dark. The only thing he cared about was Yi Chen's identity as a 100 transformation demon. What a powerful corrosive power! In the green storm, Yi Chen's immortal sword body emitted a sizzling sound of corrosion. His right shoulder, which was directly hit, was already dyed with a layer of green. The corrosive toxin was spreading through his flesh and blood. Once it spread to his whole body, it was estimated that his soul and martial arts Yuan Shen would not be spared. Supreme martial arts were not that easy to endure. Fortunately, Yi Chen had the Immortal Sword Intent and the Destruction Sword Intent, these two supreme sword intents. The Immortal Sword Intent was able to resist the spreading of the corrosive toxins, while the Destruction Sword Intent was able to slowly kill the toxins. With the cooperation of the two supreme sword intents, Yi Chen didn't lose his life directly. Of course, the supreme armor on Yi Chen's body had been completely destroyed by the corrosive power. Even the source of the armor had been polluted, and even his cultivation couldn't be repaired. Chi. Sword light flashed. Yi Chen's right shoulder and arm were chopped off by Yi Chen's sword. The corrosive toxin was too overbearing, and Yi Chen had no way to expel it in a short period of time. Thus, he might as well damage his own origin energy and cut off the corroded part. As soon as this part was cut off from Yi Chen's body, it instantly turned into green pus that corroded the void. Sword energy and inextinguishable strength surged. Yi Chen's right shoulder and right arm quickly grew back. With a wave of his hand, the remnants of the green storm dissipated. Yi Chen looked at Empyrean Rot Demon. This opponent's attack had consumed 30% of his sword energy and half of his inextinguishable strength. It was truly worthy of being a supreme martial art. What, you didn't die? Empyrean Rot Demon was stunned. I won't give you another chance. Yi Chen was extremely wary of Empyrean Rot Demon, even more so than Empyrean Sky Devil. Empyrean Sky Devil used a supreme martial art. Yi Chen had a high chance of dodging it, but he couldn't completely dodge a supreme martial art. Of course, this was also related to Empyrean Rot Demon's sneak attack. Empyrean Rot Demon, your opponent is me. As Yi Chen spoke, Golden Buddha Supreme stood in front of Empyrean Rot Demon. Apart from Supreme True Martial, only he could completely block Empyrean Rot Demon. Empyrean Rot Demon stared at Yi Chen and didn't attack again. Fortunately, Supreme True Martial exhaled. Fortunately, Yi Chen didn't die. An unblemished demon sovereign for Yi Chen was too much of a loss for the human race. Yi Chen, very good. Treasure your remaining life. You don't have much time left. Empyrean Sky Devil Sovereign's right hand that was holding the bloodthirst spear slightly spun. Blood spurted out and was absorbed by the spear. In the next moment, the spear's blood-red radiance erupted. With a sweep of the spear, Supreme True Martial was sent flying several light years away. Retreat! Supreme True Martial roared and raised the bloodthirst spear toward the sky. A brazen killing intent filled the void. Everyone stopped, including the Supremes of Human Race Alliance. If they wanted to take advantage of the situation, they would have to face the wrath of Empyrean Sky Devil Sovereign. With his strength, it wasn't impossible to kill one or two Supremes of Human Race Alliance. Of course, at that time, both sides would suffer great losses, and the Supremes of Demons Alliance would suffer even greater casualties. Before leaving, Empyrean Sky Devil Sovereign coldly stared at Yi Chen. If an ordinary Supremes were to be stared at by this gaze, they would probably have nightmares. However, Yi Chen was indifferent. The battle came quickly and ended quickly. As soon as the battle between the Supremes ended, the battle between the armies also ended. Both sides lost countless life and death soldiers, and even some quasi-venerables. When the army of Demons Alliance retreated, the Human Race Alliance erupted in cheers. They had won. Truly inconceivable. I thought we were going to die in the battlefield. Yeah, Demons Alliance came with such a menacing momentum, but they were beaten back by us. It must be the battle between the Supremes. Our Human Race Alliance has the upper hand. And it should be so. In a battle between armies, we are much weaker. Everyone discussed spiritedly, and their emotions were stirred. Murong Qingqing and Su Jing did not die. The battle had not lasted for a long time, but they had gained a lot. The berserk aura of the battle had allowed them to display their potential to the fullest. The continuous battles with the demi-sovereigns had also tempered them. Normally, when they fought with demi-sovereigns, they would not go all out. It was not a true life and death battle. Among the quasi-venerables, Duguju and Yan Qingxian were undoubtedly a pair of shining stars. The number of quasi-venerables killed by the two alone reached more than a dozen. As for life and death soldiers, they numbered in the hundreds of thousands. The other side won. Yan Qingxian gazed at the edge of the void. She had a very strange feeling towards Yi Chen. Back then, he was merely a junior, but now, he was a supreme supremacy. The difference in life level gave Yan Qingxian a very mysterious feeling when facing Yi Chen. It was as if her student had suddenly turned into a god worshipped by everyone. I'm still lacking a lot. Just what am I lacking? Duguju pondered. He originally planned to use the battle to sense the supremacy realm, but the battle was over, and he was still confused. Looking at the life and death soldiers filling the starry sky and everyone's respectful attitude, Duguju suddenly understood. General trend. He lacked the general trend. In an era, there could only be one person walking at the front, and Yi Chen was undoubtedly this person. To become a supremacy, one had to rely on the general trend. Yi Chen had relied on the Azura World's arena to overcome the general trend of all geniuses, as well as the general trend of being a peak character, and had stepped into the supremacy realm. From now on, I want Duguju's name to resound in the starry sky. Duguju raised his head, his eyes brimming with domineeringness. Chapter 13-19. Supreme Yi, it's all thanks to you this time. Supreme Yi, when will you visit my barbarian race? Even if you want to go, you should go to my giant race. With the retreat of the Demons Alliance, the Supremes of the Human Race Alliance heaved a sigh of relief, which was soon followed by ecstasy. Compared to the last time, the Human Race Alliance had won a great victory. The situation was countless times better than they had expected, and all of this was due to Yi Chen. Of course, Golden Buddha Supreme had also played a big role. After all, he had blocked the most troublesome rotten devil Heavenly Sovereign. Yi Chen, you did well. True Martial Supreme raised his thumb, his eyes full of admiration. Repelling the Demons Alliance is everyone's contribution. I couldn't have done it alone. Yi Chen didn't take all the credit for himself. Although the Human Race Alliance didn't lose a single Supremes, they were all wounded. Some of them were especially gravely injured, and their auras were chaotic. Perhaps their strength couldn't compare to Yi Chen's, but they had all contributed greatly. The credit is naturally everyone's, but we couldn't have done it without you. The golden light on Golden Buddha Supreme's body dimmed as he walked over with a smile. Before, True Martial Supreme and Golden Buddha Supreme were the pillars of the human race, and they had to bear a lot of pressure. They couldn't let the human race fall in their hand. Otherwise, they would become the greatest sinners in history. Now that there was another Super Supremes, Yi Chen, they were naturally very happy. They wished the human race could have 10 Super Supremes, so that they wouldn't have to worry every day and could do many things they wanted to do, such as exploring the Heavenly River and Hell. Demon Domain, 9th grade life planet, Lich Planet. On top of a sky-reaching tower, the old Shaman Demon Emperor looked up at the starry sky. Letting out a sigh, Shaman Demon Emperor took out a palm-sized rainbow crystal ball from his storage ring. This was the most precious crystal ball of the Shaman Demon clan. In the entire history of the Shaman Demon clan, there were a total of 5 crystal balls, and 3 had already been used by the ancient people. The ancestor of Lich race instructed that unless it was a matter of life and death, one shouldn't use the fate crystal ball. Otherwise, one would suffer the wrath of heaven. My time has come. I'll use this fate crystal ball to predict the fate of this child for the demons. With the Shaman Demon Emperor's cultivation level, it was impossible for him to predict the fate of an honorable being. But with the Destiny Crystal Ball, things were different. Unless the other party was a demigod and had a trace of God's power, as long as he wasn't a demigod, he would still be able to predict the trajectory of the honorable being's fate. The shaman demon sovereign raised his right hand slightly, causing the fate crystal ball to float up. A gentle 7-colored radiance radiated outwards, freezing time and space. At this moment, even a supreme being could forget about disturbing the shaman demon sovereign. In the name of the shaman demon king, I shall calculate his fate. The gate of destiny, open! From within the shaman demon sovereign's body, a wave of essence chi floated out. This was the most primitive essence chi of a martial artist. Once the essence chi was depleted, it would mean the end of one's life. The primordial essence chi floated into the fate crystal ball. After that, the fate crystal ball started to rotate slowly. The 7-colored radiance flickered, and a series of blurry images appeared. These images were all about Yi Chen. At the start, they were images of Yi Chen's past. Especially the first image, it caused the shaman demon sovereign to frown. Why could he only see the young Yi Chen? Why couldn't Yi Chen predict the future? The shaman demon sovereign frowned. To predict the future, one had to be familiar with the other party's past. The shaman demon sovereign didn't know how the fate crystal ball was created and what materials were used. But he knew that the power of the fate crystal ball had already enveloped Yi Chen. Someone is calculating my fate? Who is it? In the heavenly treasured palace, Yi Chen opened his eyes. After a moment of silence, Yi Chen closed his eyes again. Fate was too mysterious for words. Maybe only true gods could control their own fate. Or maybe, true gods were just fishermen in the river of fate. They could see the fate of the fishes, but they couldn't see their own fate. Whoever wanted to calculate his fate, just let them be. Images appeared one after another. At the start, these images were still. Once they appeared, they would start to move. The shaman demon sovereign's body became more and more stooped, but the light in his eyes grew brighter and brighter. Legendary rank supreme. Demigod. After calculating that Yi Chen could become a demigod, the shaman demon sovereign shook his head. Indeed, back then, he had relied on his own strength to calculate Yi Chen's fate. He had predicted that Yi Chen would become a legendary rank supreme, or even surpass it. But at that time, it was just a premonition. It wasn't as clear and certain as it was now. A new image appeared. This image was extremely primitive, as though it wasn't in the universe. In this image, Yi Chen was fighting against a group of demigods. In the end, all the demigods died. The final scene appeared. It was a scene of chaos. Nothing could be seen. Slowly, a pair of eyes appeared. What kind of eyes were those? He could see them, but he couldn't remember them. Suddenly, the shaman demon king was stunned. That was because a voice rang out. How dare you calculate my fate? Die. True God. The shaman demon sovereign breathed his last breath and vanished into thin air. His death was too sudden. He couldn't even leave a message. The fate crystal ball shattered and everything disappeared. Only the pair of eyes didn't disappear. The pair of eyes grew bigger and bigger until they were as big as the universe. However, no one could feel the existence of the eyes until they disappeared into the chaos. Crackle! Black lightning struck down from the shaman demon planet. The power of these black lightning bolts was extremely strong. It was comparable to the destructive lightning bolts that struck the puppet true god's will in hell. This wasn't the wrath of the heavens. The wrath of the heavens didn't appear in the form of lightning. If the shaman demon sovereign was still alive, he would know why the black lightning bolts appeared. Unfortunately, he was already dead. The complete disappearance of the shaman demon planet shook the demon realm. One had to know that in history, a rank 9 life planet had never disappeared for no reason. Even a demigod couldn't destroy a rank 9 life planet. In the heavenly palace, Yi Chen opened his eyes again. He saw a familiar pair of eyes, but he couldn't remember what they looked like. Did you hear? The shaman demon planet suddenly disappeared. What's going on? The shaman demon planet is a rank 9 life planet? I don't know either. Maybe the existence of the shaman demon planet violated a taboo. It's good that it disappeared. Who knows how many geniuses of the human race died because of the shaman demon clan's divination? Yes, the disappearance of the shaman demon planet is equivalent to digging out one of the demon's eyes. It's a good thing. In the 9 Revolution Stars Supreme Pavilion, a few Supremes had already heard the news. Good. Fate has finally started to favor the human race. In the true martial continent, the true martial Supremes and the Golden Buddha Supremes were drinking and laughing. In the dark chaos. Damn Sword God, he actually destroyed the Shaman Demon clan. Just you wait, just you wait. Chapter 1320. The human body was a universe. If one wanted to completely understand the human body and develop all the mysteries of the human body, it would not be any easier than completely understanding the universe. However, the human body was different from the universe. The universe would never change, but the human body would change. This was because the human body was constantly evolving along with cultivation. To continue improving the immortal sword physique, he needed to understand more about the human body, and this was what Yi Chen lacked. I should ask the Golden Buddha Supreme for advice. Yi Chen thought for a while and flew out of the heavenly palace, heading towards the myriad Buddha continent where the Golden Buddha Supreme was. Yi Chen, how come you have time to find me? The Golden Buddha Supreme invited Yi Chen into the myriad Buddha hall. The Golden Buddha Supreme sat cross-legged in the myriad Buddha hall. Opposite him was a simple stone table and a stone chair. Yi Chen sat down and went straight to the point. Golden Buddha Supreme, I'd like to ask you about the mysteries of the human body. I see. The Golden Buddha Supreme nodded. I have a human body quintessence here. Take it and ask me if there's anything you don't understand. The Golden Buddha Supreme took out a golden book and handed it to Yi Chen. Thank you very much. Yi Chen took the book and expressed his gratitude. The Human Body Quintessence was truly a wondrous book. Just the introduction alone was enough to benefit Yi Chen. The universe has its source, and so does the human body. The universe's source evolves into all things, and the human body's source evolves into blood, flesh, and bone marrow. Although the Human Body Quintessence was only a book that introduced the knowledge of the human body, according to its introduction, the human body realm was divided into 10 levels. Yi Chen estimated that he had only reached the 4th level of the human body realm, and was only at the early stage of the 4th level. If he could fully comprehend the human body quintessence, he would be able to reach the 8th level. As for the 9th and 10th levels, they couldn't be taught and had to be explored by oneself. Of course, this was too far away for Yi Chen. Just the first 8 levels were enough for him to study for countless years. Too wonderful for words. Yi Chen was immediately immersed in the contents of the human body quintessence. In the blink of an eye, 20 years had passed. On this day, Yi Chen suddenly woke up. I should be at level 5 of the human body realm now. The 4th stage of the human realm corresponded to the 7th and 8th stages of the immortal sword body, and the 5th stage corresponded to the 9th and 10th stages. If the human realm really reached the 5th stage, then the immortal sword body would at least reach the 9th stage. As soon as he thought about it, he started to train the immortal sword body. The 8th floor. The peak of the 8th level. The 9th level. The peak of the 9th level. When the immortal sword body reached the peak of the 9th level, Yi Chen's knowledge of the human body was gradually exhausted. Apart from that, his knowledge of body tempering also came to an end. The 9th level of the immortal sword body was enough to withstand the attack of a high-level supreme being, and the peak of the 9th level could reduce the consumption to the minimum. If Empyrean Celestial and Empyrean True Martial didn't have saint artifacts, then Yi Chen wouldn't need to fear them. Facing Empyrean Rotten Devil, Yi Chen would also have the strength to fight. Of course, Yi Chen knew very well that his 9th level of the immortal sword body was still far from the Golden Buddha Supreme's Golden Body 9 refinement stage. Every time the Golden Body 9 refinement stage was upgraded, its defensive power would increase greatly. At the late stage of the 8th transformation, it could withstand the attack of a high-level Supreme Being. At the peak of the 8th transformation, it could withstand the attack of a peak Supreme Being. At the 9th transformation, even Empyrean Rotten Devil's supreme martial arts couldn't hurt the Golden Buddha Supreme. It was estimated that Saint artifacts wouldn't be much of a threat to him, and he could almost withstand the attack of a legendary Supreme Being. If the Immortal Sword body wanted to withstand the attack of a legendary Supreme Being, it would at least have to be cultivated to the 11th or 12th level. It couldn't be helped. The Golden Buddha Supreme had been a Supreme for hundreds of thousands of years. Compared to him, Yi Chen's age couldn't even compare. This sword body of yours is really amazing, but it seems to have some flaws. After 20 years, the Golden Buddha Supreme was amazed by Yi Chen's progress. After asking some information about the Immortal Sword body, the Golden Buddha Supreme gave his opinion. To be precise, it can't be considered a flaw. The main problem lies in the Immortal Sword intent. At present, the level of your sword body isn't high, so the requirements for the Immortal Sword intent aren't high. When the Immortal Sword body reaches the same level as the Immortal Sword intent, the only way to continue improving the Immortal Sword body is to improve the Immortal Sword intent. You also know how difficult it is to improve the Supreme Sword intent from the peak of the 8th level to the 9th level. It's not as easy as becoming a legendary Supreme Being. The Golden Buddha Supreme said slowly. Yi Chen smiled. There's no hurry. In fact, he had already considered this problem, but he really wasn't in a hurry. First, he had the Destruction Sword intent. The resonance between the Destruction Sword intent and the Immortal Sword intent would speed up the progress of the two Supreme Sword intent. Secondly, the Destruction Sword intent and the Immortal Sword intent had both reached the peak of the 8th level, just a step away from the 9th level. This step might be very difficult, but Yi Chen had a feeling that it wouldn't take too long. There's no hurry? The Golden Buddha Supreme was taken aback. He then smiled and said, there's indeed no hurry. With your age, time isn't a big problem for you. He misunderstood Yi Chen's meaning. Yi Chen didn't explain. Although the outside world knew that he had two Supreme Sword intents, they didn't know that the two complementary Supreme Sword intents would resonate with each other. Just like that, Yi Chen would sometimes go into closed-door training to study the human body quintessence. Sometimes, he would go to the Golden Buddha Supreme to learn from him. Sometimes, he would meet up with Su Jing and Morong Qingqing and give them some pointers. His days were full, and he had some gains every day. It's time to go to the Black Wind Stream. The shortcut to obtaining body-refining knowledge was to go to the Black Wind Stream. Yi Chen had basically read all the body-refining martial arts passed down by the human race. There were only a dozen supreme body-refining martial arts, and the body-refining knowledge was limited. Only the Black Wind Stream contained endless body-refining knowledge. It should be known that the demons imprisoned there were all supreme-level demons. Over the years, countless of them had been imprisoned, and many had died, leaving behind a lot of information. The true Martial Supreme didn't stop Yi Chen from going to the Black Wind Stream. The current Yi Chen wasn't someone anyone could tempt. He was different from the Mad Lord back then. Be careful of the Black Wind Stream cave. There used to be demigod-level demons imprisoned there. The true Martial Supreme only reminded him. Yi Chen nodded. The Black Wind Stream. The Xuanhe Supreme and the Ananda Supreme were waiting for Yi Chen at the entrance. Supreme Xian He and Supreme Ananda were already aware of the situation in the outside world. They were naturally delighted by the Human Alliance's victory. They were even more delighted that the Human Alliance had gained another powerful Supreme Being who possessed a divine implement. In this way, the Alliance of Demons would have to think twice before attacking the Human Alliance in the future. They would not start a war so easily. Sorry for bothering you in the future, Yi Chen said to the two. He came here purely to study the black smoke and didn't participate in the patrol. Therefore, the patrol task was still completed by the Xuanhe Supreme and the Ananda Supreme until the 500 years were up. Not at all. We might need Supreme Yi to give us some pointers in the future. The Xuanhe Supreme and the Ananda Supreme laughed. Sure. Yi Chen was not going to be modest at all. As his cultivation level increased, Yi Chen found that he hadn't thoroughly studied the black smoke on the walls of the Black Wind Stream. There was no need to go to the cave for the time being. Supreme Yi, you're so hard-working. No wonder you could become a Supreme in less than 1,000 years. The Xuanhe Supreme admired Yi Chen for studying the black smoke every day. Mad Lord, I'm here again. On this day, Yi Chen came to the cave where the Mad Lord was sealed. Chapter 13:21. Supreme True Marshal is really generous to you. Lord Kuang's voice came from the cave. Yi Chen smiled faintly and said, Should I call you Lord Kuang or something else? What do you mean? I think your memories aren't limited to Lord Kuang's. The Black Wind Mountain Cave had imprisoned demigod demons before. Last time, Yi Chen had been invaded by a demigod's thoughts. But thoughts were just thoughts. With Lord Kuang's talent, he shouldn't have been invaded by a single thought. If Yi Chen was right, Lord Kuang should have merged with a different kind of martial arts Yuan Shen. That was why his memories were messed up and he couldn't tell if he was a human or a demon. So what if I am? So what if I'm not? The cave seal loosened a little, and a wisp of essence leaked out. I'm just curious. Since you want to know, I'll tell you myself. Roar, 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 a ghostly howl resounded as a silver shadow dashed towards Yi Chen like a silver storm. Silver martial arts Yuan Shen. No one knew that Lord Kuang's martial arts Yuan Shen wasn't a bronze one, but a silver one. Yi Chen could see that Lord Kuang's martial arts Yuan Shen was even purer than Heavenly Master Rotting Demons. It was as if it was made of silver steel needles, shining with a silver light that could penetrate one's bones. The silver shadow was extremely fast. With just a curl, Yi Chen was sucked in. Then, it spun and shrank, causing the walls to tremble. Yi Chen's expression didn't change. He unsheathed the heavenly sword and stabbed at the silver shadow. Divine weapon! The silver shadow shrieked, and with a swoosh, it pulled away. If you were free from the seal, I might be afraid of you. But now… Yi Chen's body flashed as he waved the heavenly sword. The silver shadow was fast, but how could it be faster than the heavenly sword? It was cut into dozens of pieces. Damn it! Dozens of silver shadows burrowed into the cave. They were only a part of the silver martial arts primordial spirit and not all of its power. It was no match for the power of a divine artifact. The cave that had sealed it in the past had now become its refuge. After all, Yi Chen did not dare to break the seal. Once the seal was broken, the complete silver martial arts primordial spirit would be completely freed. Where are you going? Yi Chen shook the heavenly sword in his hand, and hundreds of petals danced in the air. Time suddenly stopped, but the silver Yuan Shen's fragments were too powerful. The sword aura only affected the last fragment of the silver Yuan Shen, and the rest all drilled into the cave. Reaching out, Yi Chen grabbed the fragment of the silver martial Tao primordial spirit. Chi. As if he had caught a hedgehog, Yi Chen's sword energy was riddled with holes. Break. Seal. The destructive sword intent, sword energy, and heart force exploded, and the silver Yuan Shen's fragments exploded. Then, Yi Chen held the heavenly sword and swung it in a circle, sealing the fragments into the heavenly sword realm. Although the heavenly sword realm was not very exquisite, its structure was very strong, and it was more than enough to seal a fragment of the silver Yuan Shen. You will regret this. In the cave, Mad Sovereign said venomously. That's a matter for the future. Sheathing the heavenly sword, Yi Chen waved his hand, and the black wind token appeared. In the next moment, the token floated out and stuck to the entrance of the cave. A mysterious power surged, repairing the damaged seal. The caves on both sides of the Black Wind Stream could only seal demons below the legend rank, and not the silver Yuan Shen. However, with the Black Wind token, he could strengthen the seal again and again, and when he had the power, he could seal the other party in the Black Wind stream. The power of the Black Wind token and the power of the Black Wind stream come from the same source. I wonder how it was made? After a long time, Yi Chen kept the Black Wind token and thought to himself. The Black Wind token was not created by the true martial sovereign, and he only had the right to keep it. It was said that the power of the Black Wind token was the human race's top secret. Heavenly Sword Realm. From the first layer to the last, the Sword Realm was filled with dots of light. These dots of light were the tiny fragments of the silver yuan shen, and each dot of light contained a lot of information. The reason why Yi Chen provoked the Mad Sovereign was not because he was impulsive. The Mad Sovereign would not go crazy for no reason. There was an 80% chance that he was invaded by a foreign yuan shen, and the two yuan shen fused together, causing his memories to be in a mess, and he could not tell who he was. Since Yi Chen dared to provoke the Mad Sovereign, he naturally had full confidence. First, the seal on the two sides of the Black Wind stream was not very strong. If the Mad Sovereign could break free, he would have done so a long time ago. It was likely that the Mad Sovereign had only begun to reach the silver yuan shen in recent years, and was preparing to accumulate power to break the seal and escape from the Black Wind stream. Once the Mad Sovereign escaped from the Black Wind stream, he would be a much bigger threat than the corrupt Devil Holy Master. Of course, Yi Chen was also a little shocked. He was not very sure, and he only wanted to test the waters. In the end, he caught a big fish. Fortunately, he had the heavenly sword, or this big fish would have eaten him up and devoured his yuan shen. The test this time could be described in one sentence: the skilled were bold. The cavern is much more dangerous, but it is safe to study these yuan shen fragments. Other than Mad Sovereign, no one had studied the black smoke more than Yi Chen. Therefore, Yi Chen knew how dangerous the Black Wind stream cavern was, and he could not stay there for long. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Yi Chen would not choose to go there. Although he was confident, when faced with a demigod-level yuan shen, his confidence would sometimes turn into arrogance, and he would become like Mad Sovereign. 1. 2. Soon, Yi Chen had studied the light dots from the 1st to the 10th level of the Sword Realm, and his mind was filled with a lot of information about body refinement and spirit refinement. Spirit refinement was to cultivate the yuan shen, so Yi Chen put it aside for the time being. Soon, a year had passed. It's about time to break through. On this day, he opened his eyes and slowly breathed out a mouthful of turbid air. A demigod's martial yuan soul was indeed a demigod's martial yuan soul. Although revered Mad probably didn't fuse much with it, the amount of information was immeasurable. The information contained in a demigod's martial yuan soul was hundreds or even thousands of times more than that of a legendary sovereign's martial yuan soul. The immortal sword intent soared into the sky, and Yi Chen's immortal sword physique trembled a few times. With a cracking sound, countless cracks appeared on Yi Chen's body, like a spider web. More and more cracks appeared, and streams of blood flowed down. But soon, these cracks recovered, and the blood flowed back into his body. Immortal Sword Physique Level 10 Breakthrough. The reason why there were cracks on Yi Chen's body was because Yi Chen's body structure had instantly collapsed, and then reformed, becoming stronger and tougher. Chapter 13:22. The 9th level of the Immortal Sword body could withstand the attack of a high-level Supreme, while the 10th level could withstand the attack of a Peak Supreme. In the entire human race, apart from the Golden Buddha Supreme, there was no one stronger than Yi Chen in terms of physical defense. However, it was said that the long-lost Golden Supreme of the Dragon Clan surpassed the Golden Buddha Supreme in terms of body refinement. Of course, the Golden Buddha Supreme and the Golden Supreme were both at the 9th level. Even the true Martial Supreme, the Bronze Supreme, and a few other Supremes were also at the 9th level. If Yi Chen could upgrade his spirit body to the 9th level, Then the 10th level of the immortal sword body would not only be able to withstand the attack of a peak supreme, but also the attack of a quasi-legendary supreme, such as Heavenly Master Rot Devil. The 9th level spirit body was also known as the indestructible body. The power of the indestructible body was surging, which was of great benefit to upgrading the immortal sword body. The two complemented each other. Therefore, Yi Chen felt that it was necessary to upgrade his spirit body to the 9th level. Unfortunately, if a non-refining supreme wanted to upgrade his spirit body, he couldn't rely on himself and could only rely on heavenly treasures. Although the 9th level spirit body cultivated in this way was much weaker than a body refining supreme, it was better than nothing. At Yi Chen's level, he deeply felt the importance of defense. With high defense, he could at least run away if he couldn't beat others. With high offense, he might be able to seriously injure those with weak defense, but it was still useless against those with high defense. For example, the Golden Buddha Supreme's attack was inferior to Yi Chen's, but Heavenly Master Rot Devil couldn't do anything to the Golden Buddha Supreme. Golden Body Fruit, 100 Refinement Grass, Spring of Life. After leaving the Black Wind Stream, Yi Chen didn't stop and went to various supreme secret realms to find treasures that could upgrade his spirit body. The matter with the Golden Buddha Supreme was a major event of the human race, related to the life and death of the entire race. This time, it was Yi Chen's personal matter, so Yi Chen could only rely on himself to find treasures. Yi Chen's luck was good. He found a spring of life. The Spring of Life and the Heaven and Earth Cold Spring were relatively precious spring waters in the universe. Finding one was already a stroke of luck. Of course, the life energy of the Spring of Life wasn't endless. Breaking through from the 8th level to the 9th level would probably consume one Spring of Life at a time. Therefore, there was a lot of the Spring of Life. It was just that it was hard to find. As for the Golden Body Fruit and the 100 Refinement Grass, they weren't very precious. The truly precious ones were the Golden Body Fruit and the 100 Refinement Grass that were more mature. 100,000 years old Golden Body Fruit and 50,000 years old 100 Refinement Grass were a grade higher than an ordinary Spring of Life or a Heaven and Earth Cold Spring. Icy Secret Realm. In the coldest supreme secret realm in the universe, the temperature inside was absolute zero. Even time and space were frozen in this absolute low temperature. Of course, this was the absolute zero of the universe. Under human circumstances, it could be even lower. The prerequisite for entering the icy mystic realm was to become a supreme being. Otherwise, there was no way to survive for a long time inside. Interestingly, the worldly cold spring was even colder than absolute zero. The lower the temperature, the more precious the worldly cold spring was. For example, it could be 1, 5, 10 times lower than absolute zero. An ordinary worldly cold spring would only be twice as cold as absolute zero. After arriving at the icy secret realm, Yi Chen felt that time and space were frozen. His thoughts were also much slower. In the void, there were many round ice balls. The smallest of these ice balls was hundreds of millions of miles in size. The bigger ones were several light years in size. It was as if he had entered a solid world. Every time Yi Chen moved forward, the sword energy consumed was 10 times that of the outside world. Fortunately, a supreme being had plenty of energy. This bit of consumption was nothing to Yi Chen. Activating the netherworld's sacred eye, Yi Chen scanned the surrounding ice balls. Yi Chen found something. But soon, he smiled bitterly. On one of the ice balls, Yi Chen saw a flowing liquid. This liquid was actually the worldly cold spring. Unfortunately, there was no source. Someone must have taken away the worldly cold spring and left some of the spring water behind. In the icy secret realm, only the worldly cold spring water would flow. In the icy secret realm, there was no time. Yi Chen searched day and night. 3 years passed in the outside world. On this day, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. With a swish, without wasting any sword energy, Yi Chen flew to an ice ball that was several light years in size. Whoosh! The sound of rushing water could be heard. Yi Chen saw a flowing spring. This spring water came out of the hole on the surface of the ice ball. Finally found it. Sword energy erupted. Yi Chen forcefully dug out this worldly cold spring from the ice ball. For him, absolute zero was just a relatively cold temperature. The worldly cold spring was like a white dragon, struggling in Yi Chen's palm. Fortunately, Yi Chen was a supreme being. One should know that a worldly cold spring could freeze a small galaxy and turn it into an ice ball. Crack, crack, crack. On the surface of the ice ball, cracks spread out with the hole as the center. Rumble! A huge ice monster jumped out. It was the unique life of the icy secret realm, giant ice monster. If you can understand me, you better not come over. Holding the worldly cold spring, Yi Chen said lightly. Huff, huff. How could it understand Yi Chen's words? It only knew that Yi Chen had snatched its worldly cold spring, which could make it stronger and stronger. It opened its mouth, and a whirlwind that surpassed absolute zero burst out. Each wind blade could cut open the defense of an ordinary supreme being. Shaking his head, Yi Chen stabbed out with his sword finger. Puff! The whirlwind dissipated, and the giant ice monster was blown away by the powerful finger power, losing a large piece of its chest. In terms of defense, the giant ice monster was not weaker than the Gold Creek monster. Of course, this was mainly because Yi Chen didn't kill it. Otherwise, he would have taken out the Heaven Sword and killed it without a doubt. After blowing away the ice beast, Yi Chen tried his best to seal the Heaven-Earth Cold Spring. The temperature of the Heaven-Earth Cold Spring was too low. If he put it in his storage ring, the space of the storage ring would collapse, which would waste the cold chi of the Heaven-Earth Cold Spring. Only by sealing it or putting it in the ice secret realm would it not be wasted. While sealed, the giant ice monster attacked Yi Chen without any regard for its life. However, each time it attacked Yi Chen, it lost a piece of its body. After hundreds of attacks, the giant ice monster finally learned its lesson and avoided Yi Chen. Although its intelligence was low, it vaguely knew that continuing to attack would not bring it any benefit. Soon, Yi Chen sealed the worldly cold spring and put it in the storage ring. Time to leave. With a large amount of golden body fruit, 100 refinement grass, life spring water, and worldly cold spring, Yi Chen had a 30 to 40% chance of breaking through to the 9th step spirit body. At the very least, he could increase his spirit body to the peak of the 8th step. Once he found some useful treasures, it would not be so troublesome. Leaving the icy secret realm, Yi Chen returned to the 9 Revolution Star Sky continent. Rumble! Rumble! After putting down the life spring and worldly cold spring, 2 long rivers appeared in the sky continent. One was emitting boundless life force, while the other was emitting boundless cold chi. The 2 rivers converged, forming a small Taiji-like lake. Yi Chen jumped into the small lake and accepted the washing of the life spring and worldly cold spring. Chapter 1323. Taiji Lake. Yi Chen couldn't help but let out a groan when he jumped in. The Heaven-Earth Cold Spring was too cold, and it wasn't something an ordinary person could endure without any defenses. The flow of his blood and chi gradually slowed down, and even his vitality showed signs of being frozen. Yi Chen's position just so happened to be at the boundary between the Heaven-Earth Cold Spring and the Spring of Life. The left side of his body was nearly frozen by the Heaven-Earth Cold Spring, while the right side of his body was being nourished by the Spring of Life. One side was comfortable while the other was cold. It was simply the 9 heavens of ice and fire. Taking out a golden body fruit, Yi Chen directly swallowed it down. Visible to the naked eye, a layer of golden color spread out from Yi Chen's body. This was the medicinal effect of the golden body fruit. The biggest characteristic of the golden body fruit was its rapid absorption. When the medicinal effect of the golden body fruit was exhausted, Yi Chen took out 100 refinement grass and opened his mouth. The essence of the 100 refinement grass turned into a cold light and was sucked into his mouth. Compared to the golden body fruit, the 100 refinement grass was much harder to absorb. However, the medicinal effect of the 100 refinement grass was 10 times stronger than the golden body fruit. Cold light blossomed on Yi Chen's body bit by bit. When the cold light gradually covered Yi Chen's entire body was like a steel cast that had been tempered 1,000 times. Even his hair was hard and emitted cold light in all directions. 40 golden body fruits and 500 refinement grass. In the end, the golden light and cold light intertwined on Yi Chen's body, and his aura became incomparably firm. At this point, no amount of golden body fruits and 100 refinement grass would be of any use. The human body had a limit to its absorption. After all, Yi Chen wasn't a physique refinement sovereign, and the limit of his body's absorption was far from that of a physique refinement sovereign. Generally, if a physique refinement sovereign wanted to break through their absorption limit, they would have to find even more precious treasures to break through. Now, he had to see if he could break through to the 9th grade spirit body. Otherwise, Yi Chen could only search for more precious treasures. The spring of life was filled with boundless vitality, while the heaven-earth cold spring was bone-chilling. Yi Chen, who was in between the two, felt his body itch, numb, hot, cold, stinging, and soft. With the effects of the spring of life and the heaven-earth cold spring, the medicinal power of the golden body fruit and the medicinal power of the 100 refinements herbs were quickly absorbed and refined. The nourishment of the spring of life and the stimulation of the heaven-earth cold spring could more or less increase the absorption power. He's already at the peak of the 8th step. Yi Chen could clearly feel his body becoming stronger and stronger, his bones becoming harder and harder, his muscles becoming more and more full of explosive power. The inextinguishable strength within his body was also rising steadily. Closing his eyes, Yi Chen sank into the spring water. Breaking through to the 9th order spiritual body wasn't something that could be done overnight. He had plenty of time. After a month, Yi Chen floated up. Breaking through to the 9th order spiritual body was countless times more difficult than he had imagined. No wonder only 5 people from the human race had broken through to the 9th order spiritual body. Apart from true martial sovereign, the others were all body refinement sovereigns. It should be known that those sovereigns who hadn't broken through to the 9th order spiritual body were already thousands of years old, while the older ones were already hundreds of thousands of years old. If it was so easy to break through, they would have done so long ago. The remaining energy of the spring of life and the heaven-earth cold spring was less than 1% of their original energy. Yi Chen called Su Jing and Murong Qingqing over and let them soak in the Tai Chi lake. Su Jing was a body refinement sovereign, and her spirit body had already reached the late 8th order. Murong Qingqing wasn't bad either, having just broken through to the early 8th order not long ago. However, their martial arts were too low, unlike Yi Chen, who was a sovereign and had the 10th level of the immortal sword body, which could resist the low temperature of the heaven-earth cold spring. Therefore, the remaining energy of the spring of life and the heaven-earth cold spring was just the limit of what they could bear, which was very beneficial to them. In the Tai Chi lake, 2 white and tender figures swam back and forth, creating a unique scene. Yi Chen, who hadn't had the pleasure of having sex for a long time, felt his heart move. He tangled with the two and beautiful sounds spread out. In the vast starry sky there was no end to it. Yi Chen made up his mind to break through to the 9th order spirit body. The heavenly river was too unpredictable, and hell was too mysterious. Yi Chen didn't want to go to these 2 places for the time being. Therefore, he set his goal on exploring the universe. To a sovereign, the universe was boundless, and exploring the universe was basically everyone's dream. It should be known that the territories occupied by the Human Race Alliance and the Demons Alliance were only a small part of the universe. Whether there were other races in other places, no one could be sure without seeing them with their own eyes. Yi Chen's speed was very fast. Normally, he could fly hundreds of thousands of light years in a day. At full speed, it was possible for him to travel millions of light years in a day. Yi Chen went to many places, such as the Death God Star Zone, where the Death God vines gathered. In this star zone, there was an emperor-level Death God vine on every planet. Some of the Death God vines had even reached the sovereign level, and they could kill ordinary sovereigns or even powerful sovereigns. The skilled were bold. Yi Chen went on a rampage in the Death God Star Zone, and the Death God vines that filled the starry sky couldn't stop him at all. It's been 3 months. This place should be hundreds of millions of light years away from the 4 major star zones with life. Yi Chen stood on a neutron star. The neutron star's powerful gravity and terrifying high temperature were useless to him. They couldn't even damage his clothes. Swoosh! A deep pit appeared on the neutron star, and Yi Chen disappeared. Soon, half a year had passed. Yi Chen came to the side of a deep and unfathomable black river. This was the famous dark galaxy in the universe. There were many dark beasts in the dark galaxy. In addition, there was also an extremely rare treasure, the dark lotus. The roots of the dark lotus could temper the body, the leaves could heal wounds, and the most precious thing was the lotus seed. A single seed could save one 1,000 years of hard work. The only pity was that the dark lotus was only useful to people who cultivated demonic power, such as the demons and the demonic humans who cultivated demonic power. Murong Qingqing's talent and comprehension weren't top-notch. Without external help, she would need at least tens of thousands of years to become a sovereign. Take Duguju, for example. If he couldn't grasp the big picture, then the time it would take for him to become a sovereign would be 10 times or even 100 times longer. It would take at least a few thousand years. This was also why there would only be 1 or 2 amazing people in an era. The others would only serve as foils. With the Dark Lotus, Murong Qingqing could save a few thousand years of hard work. A dark beast comparable to an ordinary sovereign pounced at Yi Chen, its huge body parting the water with terrifying momentum. Facing the dark beast that was thousands of times larger than him, Yi Chen stretched out his right hand and grabbed lightly. Poof! The dark beast was directly crushed into meat paste. While the immortal sword body gave Yi Chen a powerful defense, it also gave him an invincible power. Although the power contained in the immortal sword body was only comparable to a powerful sovereign, it was still quite amazing. The dark galaxy flowed all the time. Without Yi Chen knowing, Yi Chen followed the dark galaxy to another place, a place that Yi Chen had never been to before. Chapter 1324. Although the dark galaxy couldn't be compared to the celestial river, it was still unpredictable. If an ordinary supremacy entered, they might get trapped and wouldn't be able to get out. As he roamed the dark galaxy, Yi Chen gradually got used to its environment. This place gave people a feeling of loneliness, emptiness, and coldness. There are mana fluctuations. On this day, Yi Chen sensed mana fluctuations different from those of the dark beast. These fluctuations were very weak, and Yi Chen had to distinguish them several times before he could confirm it. Without any hesitation, Yi Chen flew towards the source of the mana fluctuations. Yi Chen discovered that the closer he got to the source of the mana fluctuations, the more dark beasts there were. There were ordinary supremacy dark beasts, powerful supremacy dark beasts, and super supremacy dark beasts. These dark beasts all had violent natures, and they were frantically attacking Yi Chen. Seeing that more and more dark beasts were attacking him, Yi Chen became ruthless. He unsheathed the heavenly sword and released a death slash. The dense sword net cleared out a large number of dark beasts, and only a few super dark beasts survived. Looking at Yi Chen in bewilderment, these dark beasts swung their tails and fled in a certain direction. Yi Chen couldn't be bothered to chase after them, so he continued forward. Half a day passed, and Yi Chen arrived at the source of the mana fluctuations. He saw that the black water had formed a whirlpool, and in the center of the whirlpool, a black lotus the size of a mountain was blooming. The roots of the black lotus went deep into the whirlpool, and the leaves covered the whirlpool. Above the leaves was a lotus pod the size of a small mountain. Black lotus of darkness. A trace of joy flashed on Yi Chen's face. Just as he was about to pluck the black lotus of darkness, the nearby spacetime rippled, and a huge head popped out. It was a dark beast. Compared to the super dark beasts, this dark beast's head was a bit smaller, and there was an additional golden pattern on its head. It looked ruthless and noble. It should be the leader of the dark beasts. Roar! Upon discovering Yi Chen, the dark behemoth chief roared into the sky, and a terrifying sound wave radiated outwards, causing Yi Chen's hair and clothes to flutter wildly. High-level Super Supremes or Peak Super Supremes? The previous few Super Dark Behemoths were only elementary Super Supremes or intermediate Super Supremes. Seeing the Darkness Behemoth Chief's attack, Yi Chen knew what grade it was. The Darkness Behemoth Chief's entire body darted out and raised its right paw. 5 rays of black light flashed out, evaporating the black water. With a clang, Yi Chen was sent flying. Peak Super Supremes. Yi Chen's battle prowess was also at the Peak Super Supremes level. It might be slightly stronger, but there was a limit to it. However, Yi Chen's strength lay in his defense, which wasn't much weaker than his attack. He could resist the attack of a Peak Super Supremes head-on. Seeing that the other party was at the Peak Super Supremes level, Yi Chen relaxed. As long as it wasn't a quasi-legendary Supremes, it was basically impossible for it to pose a threat to him. In fact, even if it was a quasi-legendary Supremes, Yi Chen still had the strength to fight. With the heavenly sword in hand, he also had the chance to injure a quasi-legendary Supremes. The battle between man and beast caused the surrounding black water to disappear. Yi Chen's defense was strong, and the Dark Beast Chief's defense wasn't weak either. Unfortunately, the heavenly sword in Yi Chen's hand would definitely leave a sword mark on the Dark Beast Chief's body. In the long run, the Dark Beast Chief would become weaker and weaker until it was killed by Yi Chen. Roar! The Dark Beast Chief was enraged. The golden patterns on its head sparkled. In the next moment, it opened its mouth and spat out a black light with golden threads. The black light flashed and disappeared. When it appeared again, it was already in front of Yi Chen. As this was the Dark Galaxy, Yi Chen's movement speed and dodging ability were greatly reduced, so he couldn't completely dodge. Break! It was very straightforward. Yi Chen didn't dodge and slashed the black light with his sword. The black light was split into 2. One of the halves landed on Yi Chen's shoulder. With a snap, Yi Chen's shoulder split open and blood flowed. This black light actually broke through Yi Chen's defense. This should be the other party's strongest move. The crack on his shoulder healed. Yi Chen thought to himself. Seeing that Yi Chen was injured, the Dark Beast Chief continued to spit out black light. It's not up to you. Yi Chen didn't want to be hit by the black light again. Although it could only injure him lightly, it had consumed a lot of his energy. Raising the heaven sword high, Yi Chen slashed out with a 5-colored sword chi. 5 elements sword art, 5 elements slash. Boom, boom. The 5-colored sword chi clashed with the black light, creating a series of explosions. All of a sudden, a figure dashed towards the Dark Beast Chief from the side. A sword slashed out, and as the sword slashed out, hundreds of flower petals fell. Time stood still. Crack! This sword slashed open a third of the Dark Beast Chief's skull, and black liquid splashed out. The Dark Beast Chief was stunned. It could feel the threat of death. At this critical moment, the Dark Beast Chief twisted its body and whipped its tail at Yi Chen, forcing Yi Chen to pull away. What happened next was beyond Yi Chen's expectations. The Dark Beast Chief gave up on fighting with Yi Chen and disappeared without a trace. Flesh and blood beings are flesh and blood beings after all. Their intelligence is much higher than energy beings. Yi Chen smiled. Rise. Holding the root of the Dark Lotus with his right hand, Yi Chen pulled it out with all his strength. The moment Yi Chen pulled out the dark lotus, the surrounding dark star river started to tremble. It was as if a giant water monster was wreaking havoc, destroying everything in its path. Under this majestic power, Yi Chen's heart started to palpitate. He couldn't care less about sealing the dark lotus anymore and fled. After an unknown period of time, the trembling behind him became smaller and smaller. Only then did Yi Chen stop. Raising the dark lotus, Yi Chen observed it carefully. He found that there were 7 lotus seeds on the lotus head. It was said that 9 lotus seeds was the highest grade of the dark lotus. 7 lotus seeds can increase 7,000 years of cultivation. If I find an alchemist emperor or an alchemist supreme to refine it, it's not impossible to increase it by 10,000 years. In the universe, the most precious profession was the alchemist profession. Only 1 in 1,000 8th-layer emperors was good at alchemy, and alchemist supreme was even rarer. At least, there wasn't a single alchemist supreme in the human race. However, there were some alchemists who were learning alchemy. After becoming alchemists, their lifespan would increase, and they could spare a part of their energy to do other things. After placing 49 seals on the Dark Lotus, Yi Chen finally managed to seal it, preventing its power from leaking out and allowing it to be stored in his storage ring. Time to go. Opening his netherworld saint eye, Yi Chen's gaze pierced through the black water and landed in the boundless distance. It's this direction. Soon Yi Chen found the closest edge of the dark star river. His figure flickered and disappeared without a trace. I'm finally out. What is this place? At the edge of the dark star river, Yi Chen looked around and frowned. He had never heard of this place before. Closing his eyes, a heart-shaking aura pervaded the air. At this moment, Yi Chen felt like an ordinary person who had arrived in a wild world filled with savage beasts. Chapter 13:25. Mu. A huge bull-shaped beast flew across the starry sky. Judging from its aura, it was obviously an emperor-level beast. Squeak, squeak, squeak. But then, a group of vicious fishes with sharp teeth and wings on their backs flew over and devoured the bull-shaped beast without leaving any bones behind. The vicious fish's aura was also at the emperor level, but they were much weaker than the bull-shaped beast. However, there were too many of them. After devouring the bull-shaped beast, the evil fishes were still not satisfied. They pounced on Yi Chen. Yi Chen didn't counterattack, letting them gnaw on his body. Of course, the result was miserable. The fish's teeth all fell off. Grabbing one of them, Yi Chen released his soul power to study it. The structure of the evil fishes was very complicated. They had 3 small hearts. This should be a 3-hearted evil fish. If I'm not wrong, that bull-shaped beast is an eclipsing moon ancient bull. It likes to devour Yin things. The moon also has Yin energy, hence its name. The 3-hearted evil fish and the eclipsing moon ancient bull were both space beasts. No one knew how many there were. The difference between the beast race and space beasts was that one had intelligence no lower than humans, while the other had low intelligence and only knew how to kill. Yi Chen tried to tame the 3-hearted evil fish, but he found that as soon as he imprinted his soul mark on it, the fish's soul immediately scattered. He couldn't tame it at all. Come here. The 3-hearted evil fish was a delicacy. Yi Chen didn't want to let it go. He directly sealed their power and sent them to the 5-element space he had created. Yi Chen's 5-element space was many times more stable than Wuling Old Ancestor's 5-element space. Swish. A river was created. Yi Chen put the 3-hearted evil fish inside. Eclipsing moon ancient bull. 3-hearted evil fish. Heaven fragrance giant snake. Rolling heart strange vegetables. Falling thunder whale. Black flame giant bird. Along the way Yi Chen caught whatever he caught. The 5-element space had almost turned into a nest of space beasts. Fortunately, the power of these space beasts had been sealed by Yi Chen. Even if they killed each other inside, the destruction would not be too great. Moreover, after losing their power, they would not be able to bite each other. There are so many delicacies here. It should be enough to make the barbarian supremes die of envy. The barbarian race loved meat the most. The meat that the barbarian supremes wanted to eat was naturally not ordinary meat. At the very least, it had to be the meat of an emperor-level starry sky beast. The meat of an emperor-level starry sky beast was the best. As for the supreme-level starry sky beast, no one was willing to eat it. While flying, Yi Chen used the netherworld's sacred eye to look around. What? A metal planet! Suddenly Yi Chen saw an azure metal planet. This metal planet was not big, but it was several thousand li in size. It was revolving in the starry sky, emitting a boundless azure radiance. Whoosh! With a teleport, Yi Chen arrived on the metal planet. Using his right hand as a knife, Yi Chen tried to dig out a piece of metal, but no matter how hard he tried, he only managed to grab some metal scraps. This is a supreme-grade metal? Yi Chen was incomparably surprised. Supreme-grade metal was an excellent material for forging supreme weapons. Only supreme-grade metal couldn't be destroyed by Yi Chen with his bare hands. Of course, this was because Yi Chen didn't use the Sky Sword, nor did he use any martial arts. Otherwise, a mere supreme-grade metal wouldn't be able to stop Yi Chen, unless it was forged into a supreme weapon. Right, I still haven't read that book about supreme-grade materials. Let's see if there's such a metal. The storage ring flickered, and a 7-colored book appeared in Yi Chen's hand. The book opened, and each page had a projection, introducing the color, hardness, effect, and other information of each material. Soon, Yi Chen found some useful information. Azure Star Iron, a 3rd-grade supreme-grade metal. Its color is azure, and its hardness is enough to block a super supreme-grade attack. It can be used as the main material to forge a 3rd-grade supreme-grade weapon, and can also be used as a supplementary material to forge a 4th-grade supreme-grade weapon. Supreme-grade weapons were divided into 5 grades, from the lowest to the highest. 1st grade, 2nd grade, 5th grade. The brilliant god sword that Yi Chen used before was a 2nd-grade supreme-grade sword. Similarly, supreme-grade materials were also divided into 5 grades. Whether it was the Human Race Alliance or the Demons Alliance, 3rd-grade supreme-grade weapons were extremely rare, and 4th-grade supreme-grade weapons were almost non-existent, not to mention 5th-grade supreme-grade weapons. It should be known that 4th-grade supreme-grade weapons were usually used by legendary supreme-grade martial artists, and 5th-grade supreme-grade weapons were used by demigods. As for saint-grade weapons, they were infused with divine stones, but not all supreme-grade weapons could be infused with divine stones. The minimum requirement for infusing divine stones was that the supreme-grade weapon had to be 3rd grade or above. Once a supreme-grade weapon below 3rd grade was infused with divine stones, it would immediately become useless. In simpler terms, the higher the grade of the supreme-grade weapon, the higher the success rate of infusing divine stones. For example, Yi Chen's Sky Sword was at least a 3rd-grade supreme-grade weapon before it became a saint-grade weapon. It might even be 4th grade or 5th grade. Of course, the possibility of it being 5th grade was quite low. Collect. After sealing the Azure Star Iron, Yi Chen directly stored it in his 5 elements space. As for the storage ring, its space was not that big. Unknowingly, Yi Chen arrived in the vicinity of a continent. This continent was floating in the sky, with a diameter of tens of billions of li. Waves of horrifying barbaric aura were emitted from this continent. Yi Chen wanted to see through the entire continent with his netherworld saint eye, but he soon discovered that this continent was shrouded in a mysterious power. His netherworld saint eye, which could see through boundless space, could only see a few thousand li. His soul power was even worse, only able to radiate out a few li. Should I go in? Yi Chen could feel that this continent was very dangerous, countless times more dangerous than the supreme secret realm. The unknown always contained too much danger. Perhaps it's an opportunity. After hesitating for a while, Yi Chen flew toward the continent. The moment he landed on the continent, Yi Chen felt the restriction of the rules. The rules greatly reduced his speed, the range of his soul power, and his destructive power. In short, Yi Chen felt a lot weaker on this continent. Even his immortal sword body was weakened. His overall strength might not even be comparable to an ordinary supreme, and was somewhere between a quasi-supreme and an ordinary supreme. The power of the rules surpassed everything, unless one could surpass the rules. Not good. Yi Chen discovered that he couldn't leave the continent. The higher he flew, the greater the pressure. He simply couldn't escape the restriction of the continent, just like ordinary people couldn't leave the planet, because they couldn't break free from the planet's restriction. Since he was already here, he might as well make the best of it. At this moment, regret was useless. Not to mention, Yi Chen didn't regret it at all. Exploration had always been risky. Things without risk meant that the harvest wouldn't be much either. Flying leisurely, Yi Chen headed toward the depths of the continent. After flying for an unknown number of days, Yi Chen saw a small village with his netherworld Saint Eye. There were only 100 families in the village. Chapter 13:26. When Yi Chen was less than 3 miles away from the small village, a group of strong villagers, wearing all kinds of armor, rushed out with a group of fierce hunting dogs. Woo 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 woo. These hounds were not ordinary domestic dogs. The leading hound was a large dog that was even stronger than a black bear. Its fur was brown and yellow, and when it growled, its neat and fierce teeth were revealed. Upon closer inspection, one could see that its pupils were 6-pointed stars, and there was a hint of wildness in its nobility. The hounds behind it were a bit smaller, and their auras were not as fierce as the large hounds. However, judging from their auras, they all had the aura of a high-level or even a top-level emperor, while the large hound had the aura of a supreme being. Astral bear dog, royal hunting dog! Yi Chen exclaimed in surprise. He would never have imagined that there would be a star bear hound and a group of royal hunting hounds in a small village. Canine-type ferocious beasts were one of the few ferocious beasts that could be tamed. Usually, it was considered lucky to see a single royal hunting hound. The probability of seeing a group of them was so low that it was negligible. As for the star bear hound, it was even rarer. In the Human Race Alliance, only the barbarian race had star bear hounds. Who are you? The villagers looked similar to barbarians, but there were still some slight differences. Their pupils had a cross shape, and their teeth were finer and sharper. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man wielding a sharp spear. His aura was powerful, and he was clearly a sovereign. Beside him was that lofty and incomparably ferocious starry bear hound. I am Yi Chen, and I wandered here. Yi Chen sized up the villagers and replied. An outsider? A villager asked. Yi Chen did not hide it. Yes. Village chief, he is an outsider. You can let him join our great Gale village. Hearing Yi Chen say that he was an outsider, the villagers' eyes lit up. In the wilderness god continent, there were only the desolate race and beasts, but occasionally, outsiders would come to the wilderness god continent. These outsiders were powerful, and the weakest was a powerful sovereign. The middle-aged man with a sharp spear nodded. Are you willing to join the great Gale village? Yi Chen pondered for a moment. I can temporarily join the Great Wind village, but when I want to leave, you can't stop me. Now that he knew nothing about this mainland, it was good to go to the Great Wind village to understand the situation. All right, but the minimum time limit is 3 months. There were more than 100 families and more than 300 people in Gale village. The houses in the village were different from the style of the outside world. Instead, they had a very primitive house structure. They looked round but not round, square but not square. In the village, the ground was paved with large gray-blue stones. Yi Chen stepped a little harder and found that the hardness of the stones was very exaggerated. It was estimated that even the top emperor level could not damage it. Once they entered the village, a lot of villagers followed them out of curiosity. There were also a lot of kids. Although they were kids, their cultivation bases were incomprehensible. Even the lowest among them was at the astral reaching realm. Could it be that these kids had been training since they were in their mother's wombs? Puzzled, Yi Chen arrived at the temple in the center of the village. In the wilderness god continent, you have to make an oath to join the village. Now you have to make an oath in front of the desolate god crystal. The content can be. The village head said to Yi Chen. Yi Chen thought for a moment and felt that there were no loopholes. Then, he said loudly to the desolate god crystal in the temple, I, Yi Chen, will join the Great Wind Village from now on. The minimum time limit is 3 months. During this time, Brother Yi Chen, welcome to the Great Wind Village. My name is Feng Lai, the village head. After Yi Chen made the oath, Feng Lai let out a sigh of relief and said with a smile. After living in the Great Wind Village for 3 days, Yi Chen completely knew what kind of continent this was. The continent's name was Wilderness God Continent. According to the records, it was a continent created by the desolate god. What covered the continent was not the natural law, but the desolate god's law. In other words, anyone below the true god level could not violate the desolate god's law. Living in the wilderness god continent were the desolate race and the beast. The desolate race had the bloodline of the desolate god. The people of the desolate race were born with the cultivation base of the astral reaching realm. As they grew older, their cultivation base would increase rapidly. Normally, they would automatically become life and death realm warriors when they reached adulthood. After that, they would have to rely on themselves to train seriously. This was also why the lowest cultivation base of the kids in the Great Wind Village was the astral reaching realm. In the desolate god continent there were tens of thousands of villages. Small villages only had dozens of families, while big villages had almost 1,000 families. Once there were more than 1,000 families, they would become tribes. Between 1,000 and 2,000 families, they would become rank 1 tribes, 2,000 to 5,000 families, 5,000 to 10,000 families, 4,000 to 20,000 families, and so on. There was a very strange law in the desolate god continent. No matter who it was, they had to eat meat. Otherwise, their strength would decline very quickly. In the outside world, there was no need to eat at all. The reason why they ate was just to enjoy delicious food, which was dispensable. Therefore, there would often be wars between villages in order to conquer each other. After all, the more people there was, the more meat they could hunt. If the population was small, sometimes they would have to starve. In the desolate god continent, outsiders were very popular. Even in the tribes, outsiders would be treated very well. The main reason was that outsiders who came to the desolate god continent were basically powerful supremes or even super supremes. Moreover, their martial arts were especially powerful. Experts were welcomed everywhere. This was something recognized by the laws of the desolate god continent. As a new member of the Great Wind Village, Yi Chen was naturally assigned a house. This house had been vacant for a long time, and it was covered with dust. Fortunately, he would only live here for 3 months. Yi Chen was too lazy to build a new house. Building a house here required a lot of energy. The soil and stones of the desolate god continent were extremely hard. Lying on the recliner outside the house, Yi Chen looked up at the sun. It had been a long time since he had enjoyed the scenery so leisurely. Yi Chen felt that his mood was much calmer. Turning his head, Yi Chen saw a little girl staring at him from the corner of the house. Yi Chen waved at her. The little girl walked over carefully. I heard that you are an outsider? Yes, what's your name? My name is Feng Na. All the people of the Great Wind Village had the surname Feng. Feng Na, a very nice name. Yi Chen smiled and took out 2 3-hearted evil fish from the 5 elements space. Do you want to eat barbecue? I'll treat you. Feng Na swallowed her saliva. There were more than 300 people in the Great Wind Village, but there were only dozens of people with real battling power. A part of them had to stay in the village, while the others could go out to hunt. However, normally, each family could only get a little bit of prey. The ones who contributed more would get more, and no one could refuse meat. The smell of barbecue filled the air as Feng Na wolfed down the food. Yi Chen also ate a little bit. On the desolate God continent, he felt the hunger that he had not felt for a long time. One three-hearted evil fish contained way too much power. Feng Na had only eaten 1% of it, and she was already full. After all, her cultivation was only at the early sea of Soul's realm, and it was impossible for her to be like Yi Chen, who could just eat a little bit and fill up half of it. Can I take the rest? Feng Na pointed at the remaining three-hearted evil fish she had eaten. Sure. Yi Chen nodded. Thank you for the treat. Feng Na happily took the rest of the three-hearted evil fish back. There would be more updates at night. Chapter 1327. Another 5 days passed in a flash. On this day, a group of people returned from the mountains outside of the village. The hunting team is back. Yay! There is meat to eat again. The kids cheered as they rushed out of the village. In every village there would be a hunting team. Their mission was to go deep into the mountains to hunt down the beast. Large villages would have more than 2 hunting teams. The Great Wind Village only had 100 families, and only dozens of people had fighting power. Therefore, there would only be 1 hunting team. Therefore, everyone would have to wait for the hunting team to come back. Sometimes it would be half a month, and sometimes it would be 1 or 2 months. This period of time was the most torturous for everyone. The leader of the hunter squad, Feng Dachuan, was tall and sturdy. He had a domineering and awe-inspiring aura. Just like Feng Lai, he was also a supreme being. The Great Wind Village had a total of 3 supreme beings. One was the current village chief, one was the old village chief, and the last one was the leader of the hunter squad. Behind Feng Dachuan was a black hunting dog. It was a supreme-level beast, the Black Wind Tyrant Dog. In terms of value, it was only a bit weaker than the Sky Bear Dog. Feng Lai brought the villagers out to greet them. Looking at the hunting team and seeing that there were still people, he asked, "It should be smooth this time, right? You guys are back so soon." The hunting team had gone out half a month ago. Feng Dachuan patted his chest and laughed. "Our luck is not bad. None of them died. With me, Feng Dachuan, there is nothing to be afraid of. As long as they are not dead." How was the harvest? Besides the casualties, Feng Lai was most concerned about the harvest. If the harvest was not good, then he would have to tighten his belt. But if the harvest was good, then he would be able to last for a long time without having to worry about not having enough meat to eat. "I told you, our luck is not bad. Look." The storage ring on Feng Dachuan's finger flashed with a dim light, and countless beast corpses appeared on the village road. These beasts' chi ranged from the 1st to the 8th sky of life and death realm. There were 58 of them in total. The wild god continent was not the same as the outside world. Their bodies were all very small. For example, Yi Chen's body could only maintain a height of 180 meters. The Sky Bear Dog and the Black Wind Tyrant Dog were also only 1.5 meters tall. Therefore, among the 58 beast corpses, the biggest was only a dozen meters long, which was a python. Alright, with so many dire beast corpses, it should be enough to last us for a month. The more powerful one's cultivation base was, the more meat one could eat. For example, a supreme expert could eat a huge amount of meat in a single meal. Moreover, it had to be the meat of a beast at or above the 7th layer of life and death realm. Below the supreme realm, even 100 emperors couldn't compare to a single supreme. As a member of the Great Gale Village, Yi Chen also had the right to get some meat, but he didn't want it. There were too many ominous beasts in the 5-element space, and all of them were emperor-level ominous beasts. It was enough for Yi Chen to eat for hundreds of years. Of course, he wasn't obligated to give his ominous beasts to the Great Gale Village. First, he didn't owe the Great Gale Village anything. Second, he could see that in the wilderness god continent, one must have meat to eat. Although there were many ominous beasts in the 5-element space, he wouldn't give them for free. "Feng Na, where did your family get the 3-hearted evil fish?" If you have it, why didn't you offer it up? Suddenly, a shout came from the village. It was Feng Dachuan's voice. Feng Na's sobbing soon followed. What happened? Yi Chen heard the voice and walked over. Big brother Yi Chen. Seeing Yi Chen, Feng Na said in an aggrieved tone. What happened? Yi Chen asked. It turned out that Yi Chen had given Feng Na a three-hearted evil fish last time. Feng Na ate 1% of it and gave the rest to her parent. In the following days, Feng Na didn't eat a single bite of meat. She only felt that she wasn't hungry at all, and her whole body was full of energy. She immediately knew that the meat Yi Chen gave her was not ordinary meat. Of course, she didn't think that it was an emperor-level vicious beast. Out of her childish nature, Feng Na secretly took some of the three-hearted evil fish's meat for her other companions to eat. Among them were Feng Dachuan's children. After Feng Dachuan found out about this, he came to question them. It must be known that in the village, only Supremes could eat the meat of emperor-level vicious beasts. The others weren't qualified to eat it. This wasn't hegemony because Supremes wanted to maintain their power, so they had to eat the meat of high-level vicious beasts. After knowing the whole story, Yi Chen said to Feng Dachuan, I was the one who gave her the three-hearted evil fish. Let's forget about this matter. Yi Chen wouldn't dislike the Great Wind Village's rules because of this. However, Feng Dachuan's attitude toward Feng Na made him a bit unhappy. Feng Na's parents were only normal life and death realm warriors. Under Feng Dachuan's yelling, they were shaking uncontrollably. They actually didn't know that it was a three-hearted evil fish, an emperor-level vicious beast. Outsiders, this is our Great Wind Village's rule. No one can violate it. Feng Dachuan frowned. He was still a bit scared of outsiders. Then what do you want? Yi Chen asked. According to the Great Wind Village's rule, anyone who violates it will be locked in a dark room for a month. Someone, take Feng Mu's entire family away. Feng Dachuan waved his hand and ordered. Wait. Yi Chen's face was a bit gloomy. This is my fault. If I knew about the Great Wind Village's rule, I wouldn't have given her the three-hearted evil fish. Since it was her first offense, a verbal punishment would have been enough. Why do you have to be so serious? Yi Chen didn't want to break the Great Wind Village's rule. No. Feng Dachuan was used to being a tyrant in the Great Wind Village. His words and actions were swift and decisive, and no one would dare to disobey him. Only Feng Lai and the old village head could talk to him. Don't go too far, Yi Chen said coldly. Outsiders, although you have joined the Great Wind Village, you have to know that as a member of the Great Wind Village, you cannot disobey the orders of the village head and the leader of the hunting team. How dare you? After all, outsiders were a legend, and this was the first time Feng Dachuan had met an outsider. The Wilderness God continent was extremely vast, and even if there were outsiders here, there would only be a few of them. How could Great Wind Village have the chance to meet one? Thus, although he was wary of outsiders, he was not afraid of them, especially when his prestige was challenged. I remember that in the oath, there was only one rule about not killing the people of the Great Wind Village. It did not say anything about not disobeying. If there was such a rule, Yi Chen would not have made the oath. He was not an idiot. Brother Yi Chen, it is my fault. Don't worry about it. At this time, Feng Na suddenly said. Yi Chen shook his head. I only do things with a clear conscience. Whoever dares to take her away today, don't blame me for turning against you. You dare. Feng Dachuan's voice was low. Roar. The Black Wind Tyrant Hound beside Feng Dachuan suddenly jumped, pouncing at Yi Chen. Many people screamed in shock. The strength of the Black Wind Tyrant Hound was obvious to all. This was a supreme-level fierce beast with a fierce and cruel personality. Ordinary supreme beings would take a detour if they encountered a Black Wind Tyrant Hound. Woo woo woo, however, the next second everyone was shocked. The powerful Black Wind Tyrant Dog had its mouth covered by Yi Chen's hand and was lifted up into the air. Its 4 legs were struggling, looking like a little puppy, looking very pitiful. Chapter 13:28. Bang! With a casual fling, the black-winged tyrant hound was thrown out of the village. When it ran back into the village, it no longer dared to be presumptuous towards Yi Chen. As a ferocious beast, although its intelligence was not high, it could still sense the gap between them. When Yi Chen pinched its mouth, that terrifying power was like a vast ocean. Any explosion could probably crush it to death. Yi Chen's eyes swept across the crowd and finally landed on Feng Dachuan. He said word by word, "With my strength, it is not difficult to sweep the Great Gale village. You are not my opponent." "You?" Feng Dachuan glared. "Enough, Dachuan. This matter is indeed not Feng Na's fault. Why make things difficult for her? Feng Na, this is a lesson. You should know the rules of the Great Gale village." At this moment, Feng Lai walked over with the Starry Sky Bear Hound. The Starry Sky Bear Hound licked the fur of the black-winged tyrant hound and looked at Yi Chen with fear. "Yes, village chief." Feng Na lowered her head and said. Rubbing Feng Na's head, Feng Lai said to Yi Chen apologetically, "Brother Yi Chen, Dachuan is not a bad person. He is just a little inflexible. I hope you don't mind." Although Yi Chen's words were arrogant, Feng Lai was not angry. Instead, he was a little happy. Although the black-winged tyrant hound only had the strength of a normal supreme being, this was the Huang God continent. Under the cover of the Huang God's law, the gap between supreme beings had shrunk a lot. Yi Chen could easily subdue the black-winged tyrant hound, which meant that he was much stronger than he had imagined. "I won't mind. I just hope that the rules of the Great Gale village will be more humane," Yi Chen said. "That is for sure." After saying that, Feng Lai looked at Feng Dachuan with a look of reproach. The Great Gale village's rules were actually not that strict. They did not care about human feelings at all. This time, most of the fault was on Feng Dachuan's shoulders. It seemed like he needed to be taught a lesson. Feng Dachuan's face alternated between green and white. Originally, he had wanted to consolidate his prestige and not take even half a step back when facing the people from the outside world. But now, the result was the complete opposite. His prestige had fallen to the ground. No matter where one was, the rule of the strong was an unchanging truth. He could berate Feng Na and his family, but he didn't dare to berate Yi Chen. Just now, Yi Chen had easily restrained the black-winged tyrant hound with his powerful strength, and it had left a lingering fear in his heart. A week had passed since the three-hearted evil fish incident. In the chief's yard, Feng Lai, the old chief, Feng Dachuan, and Yi Chen were chatting while eating barbecued meat. The meat was provided by Yi Chen. The eclipsing moon ancient cow's meat is really good. This kind of meat is usually only eaten by the tribe's supremes. Feng Lai took a large piece of beef and ate it in big bite. The old chief nodded. "The tribe has a large population and a lot of fighting power. We can organize 2 or 3 hunting teams to take turns to enter the mountain. Our Great Gale village will be satisfied with just enough food and clothing." Listening to the contents of the two's conversation, Yi Chen's heart was moved. He thought, why don't we help the Great Gale village and let it become a tribe? The stronger the Great Gale village is, the more help it will be to me. I help the Great Gale village, and then the Great Gale village will help me. This Huang Shen continent is so vast, there must be a place for the Great Gale village. Brother Yi Chen, come, let me toast you. What happened last time was my fault, I hope you can forgive me. Feng Dachuan raised his wine cup and toasted Yi Chen. Yi Chen smiled and said, "We are all supremes, let the past be the past. What is in front of us now is the future." The old ginger was still spicier. The old chief could hear the hidden meaning in Yi Chen's words, so he couldn't help but ask, "What is the future?" Yi Chen looked at the three of them and went straight to the point. "Do you want the Great Gale village to become a tribe? Let the Great Gale village become a tribe?" Feng Lai's eyes lit up, but they quickly dimmed. A first-rank tribe needs 1,000 to 2,000 households, and at least 7 or 8 villages have to be conquered. This is not an easy matter. Feng Dachuan also said, the bigger the village, the more supremes there are. The Purple Thunder village, which is the closest to us, has 200 households and 5 supremes. We should thank the heavens if they don't find trouble with us. In the Huangshan continent, no one was willing to be conquered, because if they were conquered, their status would not be as high when they went to someone else's territory. The old chief's understanding of Yi Chen's words was obviously higher than Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan. He hesitated and said, Little brother Yi, do you want our great Gale village to become a tribe? Yes. Yi Chen nodded. Hearing this, Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan finally recovered. If they had Yi Chen's help, it was possible for the great Gale village to become a first-rank tribe. However, they did not know what level Yi Chen's strength was. Great, with little brother Ye's help, the rise of our great Gale village is just around the corner. Come, cheers. The old chief did not look old, and he looked to be in his 60s. In the great Gale village, the old chief was the #1 expert, and he was stronger than Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan. At this moment, he held his cup and stood up. Cheers! Cheers! The 4 of them stood up and toasted. Sometimes plans could not keep up with changes. Just as the Great Gale Village was about to attack the Purple Thunder Village, the Purple Thunder Village attacked the Great Gale Village first. Outside the Great Gale Village, there were 60 to 70 people gathered. The 5 people leading them were all supremes. The purple-haired old man in the middle shouted, Feng Baixiong, come out and surrender. Feng Baixiong was the old chief's name. Lei Haotian, you are really bold. Do you think there is no one in my Great Gale village? The old chief led 30 to 40 people out of the village. Whether it was the outside world or the Huangshan continent, the higher one's cultivation base, the harder it was to give birth. In the Huangshan continent, the difficulty of giving birth was 100 times higher than in the outside world. This made it very difficult for the population to develop. However, there were quite a lot of experts. In an ordinary village, 1/10 of them had a cultivation base of life and death 7th layer or above. These people were known as members with battle prowess. The others were usually not allowed to leave the village. Just these few people, and you have the nerve to send them out? The purple-haired old man laughed heartily. Battle prowess does not depend on numbers, but also on quality. The old chief said meaningfully. Quality? Haha, then let me see your quality. The purple-haired old man's aura burst out. Battles between villages mainly depended on the Supreme's victory. If the Supremes on both sides were evenly matched, then the outcome would depend on the people below. Everyone, be careful. The old chief was quite confident. Although they only had 4 Supremes on their side, in his opinion, Yi Chen alone could fight against 2 or 3 of them. It's been a long time since we had a big battle. Feng Dachuan licked his lips. You don't need to do anything. It's too much of a waste of time. Yi Chen stopped the 3. Little brother Yi, what are you doing? The old chief was confused. Yi Chen said, I alone am enough. It was not that Yi Chen was arrogant, but he really did not put the Purple Thunder Village in his eyes. Conquering the Purple Thunder Village as soon as possible and building a bigger village was his top priority. After saying these words, Yi Chen walked out step by step and raised his head. You 5, come at me together. Arrogant. I, Lei Yu, will teach you a lesson. A middle-aged man from the Purple Thunder Village pounced at Yi Chen with a mace in his hand. As he waved the mace, his aura seemed to be able to split heaven and earth. Chapter 1329. Lei Yu was the 4th strongest in the Purple Thunder Village, but in terms of toughness, he was ranked 2nd. This was because his body's defense was extremely strong. The desolate race placed a lot of emphasis on training their bodies. Whoever had a stronger defense would have an advantage. Lei Yu raised his mace with both hands and swung it down crazily. Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan's eyebrows twitched. If they were in Yi Chen's shoes, they would definitely dodge. But Yi Chen's action shocked everyone. He stretched out his right hand and easily blocked the mace. The spikes on the mace didn't even pierce through the skin of Yi Chen's palm. Get lost! Yi Chen waved his hand and the mace bounced back, landing on Lei Yu's head. Blood started to flow out of his mouth as he was blown thousands of meters away. Who else wants to fight? Yi Chen looked at the purple-haired old man. Little brother, who are you? I don't remember you in the Great Wind Village. The purple-haired old man Lei Haotian said seriously. According to you, I am an outsider. Yi Chen said lightly. An outsider? Everyone's complexion changed. There were too many legends about the outsiders. It was said that many tribes weren't tribes in the past, and relied on outsiders to rise. Although not every outsider was as powerful as them, the strength of outsiders was still widely spread. Hearing Yi Chen say that he was an outsider, the Purple Thunder Village's sovereign felt bitter in his heart. Soon after, he felt a trace of jealousy. Why didn't our Purple Thunder Village meet outsiders? Little brother, with your power, joining the Great Wind Village is a waste of your talent. Why don't you join our Purple Thunder Village? I can guarantee that other than being the village head in name, you will have the same power as the village head. The purple-haired old man wanted to poach Yi Chen. If they fought, the Purple Thunder Village might not be Yi Chen's match. Oh, the conditions are very good. Yi Chen smiled. Little brother Yi, whatever the Purple Thunder Village is willing to offer, we, the Great Wind Village, are also willing to offer. Plus, if you have any other ideas, just tell us. The old village leader was anxious. Once Yi Chen left, their Great Wind Village would definitely be conquered by the Purple Thunder Village. Feng Baixiong, water flows downwards, and people strive to climb higher. What you are doing is not kind. The purple-haired old man coldly snorted. Little brother Yi. The old village head looked at Yi Chen eagerly. On the other side, the purple-haired old man said expectantly, What do you think? Yi Chen shook his head and said, There's no rush. Let's defeat you first. The purple-haired old man's face turned cold. You're not going to reconsider? Today, it's your Violet Thunder Village that invited me. Tomorrow, it'll be an even bigger village that invited me, or even a first-grade tribe. What do you think I should do? I, Yi Chen, am not a fickle person. In fact, Yi Chen had bigger considerations. Although Gale Village's influence was very small, Gale Village at least relied on him. If it was a tribe, Yi Chen's reputation would not be comparable to that of a tribe's chief, even if he worked himself to the bone. He believed that most of the people who came to the Wilderness God continent before had the same idea as him. They wanted to help a weak village grow into a tribe step by step. That way they would have more control. If that's the case, then I'll offend you. Let's attack together. The purple-haired old man was not an inflexible person. Since Yi Chen had asked them to attack together, there was no need for them to be polite. The four Supremes attacked Yi Chen from 4 different directions. 4 different domains covered the space where Yi Chen was. At this moment, even if the old village head and the other 2 wanted to intervene, it would be difficult. The domains are too weak. Yi Chen could see that the desolate race focused on body tempering, so they were much weaker in terms of domains. Just like the body-tempering kings in the outside world, domains were their weakness. The sword domain, which had been activated by the sword Yuan, burst out fiercely, instantly turning semi-tangible. When the 4 great domains clashed with the sword domain remained unmoved, while the 4 great domains began to shake. Fighting 1 against 4, Yi Chen had the absolute upper hand. The faces of the 4 Purple Thunder Village Supremes changed several times. Eat my yin-yang blade. Thunder Strike. 4-directional Thunder Kick. Dominating Sky Axe. The 4 Supremes of the Purple Thunder Village each used their own killing moves. They didn't believe that Yi Chen could fight against the 4 of them by himself. Dang. 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 Sparks flew everywhere. Everyone was dumbfounded. The killing moves of the Purple Thunder Village's 4 Supremes landed on Yi Chen's body, but they couldn't even leave a scratch on Yi Chen's skin. Sparks flew everywhere, shaking the palms of their hands until they were numb and bleeding. On the other hand, Yi Chen didn't even crease his brows, as if it was just a light breeze, not worth mentioning. Swish! Stretching out his right hand, Yi Chen instantly grabbed the neck of the Supreme's. He exerted strength in his hand, causing the Supreme's face to turn red. No matter how he struggled, it was useless. "Do you still want to fight?" Yi Chen said with a slightly domineering tone. "Not anymore." The purple-haired old man was disappointed. How could they fight? The opponent's defense was too high. They could not break it at all. If they continued, they would only be humiliating themselves. Throwing away the Supremes of the Purple Thunder Village, Yi Chen said, "You guys join the Great Wind Village. Discuss the details with the old village chief." Just like this, the Great Wind Village conquered the Purple Thunder Village. The population of the village increased from more than 100 households to more than 300 households, nearly 1,000 people. In the following month, the Great Wind Village was unstoppable, conquering one village after another. Ironstone Village, Doublewood Village, Blackwater Village, Gaoshan Village. Finally, the population of the Great Wind Village exceeded 1,000 households and was qualified to be named a tribe. "Little brother Yi, what do you think the name of our tribe should be?" In the village that had expanded 10 times, the old village chief looked excited. In just a month, the Great Wind Village became a first-class tribe. This was simply a miracle. Of course, the biggest contributor was Yi Chen. Without Yi Chen's powerful force, they could not even conquer the Purple Thunder Village. Instead, they would be conquered by the other party. Old Village Chief, of course it should be called the Gale Tribe. Feng Dachuan quickly said. The old village chief glared at Feng Dachuan. He also wanted the tribe to be called the Gale Tribe, but this tribe was conquered by Yi Chen. Yi Chen had the right to name it. They did not want to part ways with Yi Chen. Yi Chen promised them that they could stay in the Great Wind Village for a few more days. At the conference table, the Supremes of the Purple Thunder Village, Ironstone Village, Doublewood Village, Blackwater Village, and other villages had bitter expressions. After joining the Great Wind Village, their status was lower than the Supremes of the Great Wind Village. They had a certain right to speak, but the effect of their words was minimal. Yi Chen said, "It's not appropriate to call it the Gale Tribe." "Why?" The old village chief was puzzled. Yi Chen looked at the other Supremes and said to the old village chief, "The Great Wind Village is getting stronger and stronger, but the original population of the Great Wind Village is too small. There are also few Supremes. I can convince the others if I am here, but what if I am not here?" Old village chief, what Brother Yi Chen said is reasonable. On the side, Feng Lai nodded. The old village chief thought for a moment and felt that it was reasonable. The Great Wind Village relied on Yi Chen to become a tribe. If Yi Chen was not here, the others would not dare to disobey him because of the oath, but his control was also limited. Once the other tribes attacked, this delicate situation was very dangerous. A first-class tribe is not our ultimate goal. I think the name of the tribe can be called the Eternal Tribe. The most powerful person in the Eternal Tribe is the chief, followed by the elders, the leader of the hunting team, and so on. The chief will be the old village chief. The old village chief was still very strong. Apart from Yi Chen, among the Supremes, he was at least in the top 3. It was a bit inappropriate to let Feng Lai be the chief. After all, this was a tribe, not a village. As for the name Eternal Tribe, the Supremes of the other villages accepted it more easily. In any case, they had become elders and had a lot of power. In the past, they were just thugs. Chapter 1330. The Eternal Tribe had a population of 3,500 people and 1,050 families. The leader was Feng Baixiong and the Eternal Venerable Yi Chen. Below him were the elders and the leader of the hunting squad. Of course, the Eternal Tribe was still in its embryonic form. Once the tribe became more powerful, other positions would be added. As an Eternal Venerable, Yi Chen's authority was equal to Feng Baixiong's, perhaps even a bit higher. The leader had to take care of a lot of matters, while Yi Chen didn't have to be so troublesome. The hunting squad is back. So much meat. The Eternal Tribe was prospering day by day, and the tribesmen naturally didn't have to worry about not having meat to eat. At present, the Eternal Tribe had a total of 8 hunting squads, taking turns to enter the mountains. Once the first squad returned, the next one would immediately set off. This way, even if they encountered an enemy attack, they would still have the greatest fighting strength. Old Chief, the Eternal Tribe is too remote. It's time to migrate. Yi Chen still liked to call Feng Baixiong Old Chief. Feng Baixiong nodded. Yeah, there are no more villages around. It's time to migrate. Migration was very simple. They only needed to store the buildings in the village into their storage rings. The Wild's God continent was enveloped by the Wild's God's laws, and everything was shrouded in mist. It was extremely difficult to draw a map, and it took them an entire month to find an ideal place to live. Fortunately, the villages had stockpiled meat, and they had not stopped eating meat for the past month. Mountains and rivers. It's here. What entered everyone's eyes was a mountain range and a huge lake. The mountain range was vast, and the lake was crystal clear. The Eternal Tribe would certainly prosper here. Dong, dong. Houses fell one after another, spreading out in a ring shape. The entire Eternal Tribe was like a ring. Soon after, the Supremes joined hands to arrange a formation. The reason why the tribe was powerful was because of the many Supremes and the formations they arranged. It would be difficult for enemies to break in, and the tribesmen could safely reproduce inside. From now on, this will be our new home. Feng Baixiong sighed with emotion. The other Supremes also sighed with emotion. Although they had been conquered by the Great Wind Village, and were now elders or leaders of the Eternal Tribe, no matter what, a tribe was a tribe. As a member of the tribe, their fate was closely related to the tribe. They were bound together for good or bad. The arrays that Yi Chen had set up were the Immortal Sword Array and Destruction Sword Array. Although he wasn't proficient in arrays, the Immortal Sword Intent and Destruction Sword Intent were too powerful. A sword array that contained the Immortal Sword Intent and Destruction Sword Intent would be able to block a Super Sovereign for a while. Anyone below the Super Sovereign realm would be severely injured even if they didn't die. The formation did not restrict the people of the Eternal Tribe. They could enter and leave at will. This was the power of the oath. The Eternal Tribe was surrounded by mountains and rivers, which meant that in the future, there would be not only land meat to eat, but also aquatic meat to eat. The more the people of the Eternal Tribe looked at it, the more they liked it, and soon they forgot the melancholy of leaving the place where they grew up. In the Eternal Tribe, the sounds of laughter could be heard every day, and the figures of children could be seen everywhere. Outside the tribe, a hunting team was hunting aquatic beasts in the lake, while another hunting team was in the mountains, hunting terrestrial beasts. Yi Chen had a clear plan for the tribe's development. It was very simple, and that was to accumulate food. Only with more meat would the tribe's development not be limited. The fertility of the desolate race was also related to the meat they ate. Being full for one meal and hungry for another made it hard for them to give birth. This was because once there was no meat to eat, their strength would decline, and once their strength declined, where would they have extra yuan qi to reproduce? It should be known that the desolate race's people were born with astral reaching or even Sea of Soul realm cultivation base, which consumed a lot of yuan qi. Hunting geese all day long, there would be a time when geese would peck you blind. The second hunter squad that entered the mountains had met with a mishap. Dozens of Emperor Realm warriors and 2 Supreme Realm warriors had died. The specific situation was that on the 12th day, the second hunter squad encountered a space bear dog. The leader of the second hunter squad cared a lot about the space bear dog and wanted to tame one. Therefore, he ignored the others' advice and risked everything to hunt the space bear dog. Who knew that this space bear dog was not a normal one, but an extremely rare space bear dog king, possessing the bloodline of the space bear dog. After being enraged, the Space Bear Dog King went on a killing spree, killing the second Hunter Squad's leader and dozens of Emperor Realm warriors. If it were not for the fact that the Space Bear Dog King was not as murderous as the other beasts, the second Hunter Squad might have been completely wiped out. Space Bear Dog King? This time, I'll lead the team. You guys lead the way. Yi Chen's interest was piqued. He had always wanted a Space Bear Dog, and now that a Space Bear Dog King had appeared, he naturally wouldn't let it go. He prepared to let the lucky survivors of the second Hunter Squad lead the way. Sir, you can't, it's too dangerous. A Supreme Being tried to dissuade him. The Space Bear Dog King was equivalent to a Supreme Being, and its physical defense was extremely strong. It was not something an ordinary Space Bear Dog could compare to. If something were to happen to Yi Chen, their eternal tribe's future would not be as good as before, and they might even be conquered by other tribes after a period of time. There's no need to stop me, I know what I'm doing. Yi Chen had already made up his mind. Since that's the case, it's better for Sir to be careful. Feng Baixiong knew Yi Chen's personality. If he continued to stop him, he would only make him unhappy. The next day, Yi Chen led the remaining members of the second Hunter Squad and set off. In the mountains, clouds and smoke lingered, and the range of soul power was only a few miles. Fortunately, Yi Chen had the Netherworld Saint Eye, which allowed him to see a few thousand miles away. Sir, it's this direction. A member of the second Hunter Squad pointed to the front. After 3 days, Yi Chen and the others arrived at the place where the Space Bear Dog King appeared. It's here. The members of the second Hunter Squad were a little nervous. They looked around, afraid that the Space Bear Dog King would suddenly appear. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Yi Chen patted the shoulder of one of them. Standing at a high place, Yi Chen looked around. Suddenly, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. Originally, he thought that the Space Bear Dog King should have left this place. He didn't expect to find its lair 800 miles away. The Space Bear Dog King was very sensitive. It seemed to have discovered something and jumped out of its lair. However, no matter how sharp its eyes were, it couldn't detect anything strange. Shaking its head, the Space Bear Dog King went back to its lair to sleep. Not long after, Yi Chen and the others arrived at the outside of its lair. Roar! The Space Bear Dog King jumped out. It was much taller than the normal Space Bear Dogs, as tall as a human. Its brownish-yellow fur was luxuriant and had a metallic luster. On its forehead, there was a shallow golden mark. If one didn't look carefully, it would be hard to notice the existence of the golden mark. It was normal that the leader of the second Hunter Squad didn't notice it. Its hexagram eyes glanced at Yi Chen. The Space Bear Dog King lowered its body and growled, preparing to launch a fierce attack at any time. What a great Space Bear Dog King! One of you is better than 100 Space Bear Dogs. Yi Chen laughed and walked towards the Space Bear Dog King. A strong wind swept across. The Space Bear Dog King made the first move and pounced towards Yi Chen. Its sharp claws expanded in the air, reaching 5 feet long. The leader and deputy leader of the second Hunter Squad were torn to pieces by its claws. Chapter 1331. If Yi Chen was just a beginner-level sovereign, he would definitely retreat when facing the pounce of the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. Ferocious beasts and intelligent life forms were different. Their every move contained the mysteries of the heavens. Many supreme martial arts were created based on ferocious beasts. However, Yi Chen wasn't a beginner-level sovereign. Even without the Sky Sword, Yi Chen still had the strength of a medium-level sovereign. In addition to the immortal sword physique that could block the attacks of a peak-level sovereign, there was no need to fear the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. Clang! Raising his hand, Yi Chen blocked the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. Yi Chen's hands were comparable to sovereign weapons. They were unimaginably sturdy. Roar! The Starry Sky Bear Dog King's claw missed, so it stretched its neck and bit towards Yi Chen's neck like lightning. Each of its sharp teeth was half a foot long, especially the 2 pairs of fangs. They were 8 inches long and flashed with a cold light. If one was bitten, even a normal sovereign weapon would have a few bite marks. Although Yi Chen wasn't afraid of the opponent's bite, he wasn't willing to be bitten on the neck. With a kick, the Starry Sky Bear Dog King was kicked tens of meters away. Swish, without giving the opponent a chance to react, Yi Chen took a step forward and instantly rode on the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. His left hand grabbed onto the opponent's fur and his right hand clenched into a fist. The Starry Sky Bear Dog King felt dizzy. These two punches from Yi Chen didn't contain any ordinary force, but the terrifying 6 drive. 4 drive could normally shatter atoms, 5 drive could shatter neutrons, and 6 drive could shatter black holes. Of course, black holes came in all sizes. Against a large black hole, even Yi Chen couldn't do anything. The pain from the beating stimulated the Starry Sky Bear Dog King's ferocious nature. Exerting force from its 4 limbs, the Starry Sky Bear Dog King suddenly stood up and sent Yi Chen flying. As expected of the Starry Sky Bear Dog King, Yi Chen estimated that the Starry Sky Bear Dog King's strength was roughly equivalent to a medium-level sovereign. Even a high-level sovereign wouldn't be able to subdue it. One had to be 2 levels higher. The supremacy is too strong. He's actually suppressing the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. We have underestimated the Venerable One. As an outsider, the Venerable One definitely has many tricks up his sleeves. We can't see through him. The members of Hunter Team 2 discussed among themselves. Looks like I'll have to take out the Heaven Sword. Dusting off the dust on his clothes, Yi Chen placed his right hand on the hilt of the Heaven Sword. Chong, the Heaven Sword was pulled out, and a peerless sword chi shot out. The fur of the Space Bear Dog King stood up as it felt an intense threat. Whoosh! Out of everyone's expectations, the Starry Sky Bear Dog King turned around and fled at lightning speed. Where are you going? How could Yi Chen let his opponent escape? His figure blurred, and when he reappeared, he was already at the right side of the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. Yi Chen didn't use the edge of his sword to attack his opponent. With a shake of his hand, Yi Chen's sword struck his opponent. Crackle! The might of the Heaven Sword was so strong that the Starry Sky Bear Dog King was sent flying, smashing a hole in the mountain on the left, causing dust to fill the air. Without waiting for the other party to come out, Yi Chen leaped into the hole. Rumble! Another loud sound could be heard. Not long after, the sound calmed down. Will the Venerable be all right? The members of Hunter Team 2 were very nervous. In the hole, Yi Chen's left hand pressed on the head of the Starry Sky Bear Dog King, which was dizzy from the Heaven Sword's attack. He threatened, "Don't struggle, or else you will suffer." The Starry Sky Bear Dog King seemed to understand. After struggling for a while, it gave up resisting. In order to tame a ferocious beast, one naturally had to brand a soul imprint in the other party's soul ocean. The stronger the soul imprint, the higher the other party's loyalty. Not to mention anything else, Yi Chen was very confident in his own soul. The Netherworld's Sacred Eye even allowed his soul to have the will of hell, which was not to be disobeyed. Very quickly, Yi Chen branded a complete soul imprint in the Starry Sky Bear Dog King's soul ocean. This wasn't the end. Yi Chen added a restriction on the soul imprint. Once the Starry Sky Bear Dog King tried to use its soul power to erase the soul imprint, it would be countered by the restriction. After doing all this, Yi Chen released the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. "Get up!" Yi Chen ordered. Woo woo woo. The Starry Sky Bear Dog King crawled up from the ground like a puppy. It stuck out its tongue and licked the sole of Yi Chen's foot while wagging its tail. "In the future, I will call you Sky Splitter." Yi Chen thought for a moment and gave the Starry Sky Bear Dog King a name. The Starry Sky Bear Dog King's claws were very sharp and could tear the heaven and earth apart. When Yi Chen and the Starry Sky Bear Dog King jumped out of the hole, the members of the second hunter squad cheered. The Venerable was their Eternal Tribe's #1 expert. Together with the Starry Sky Bear Dog King, who could stop them? It was rare to tame the Starry Sky Bear Dog King, so Yi Chen brought it out to hunt. The Starry Sky Bear Dog King was indeed worthy of being called the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. Its hunting ability was quite impressive. Yi Chen didn't make a move and just watched from the side. In just a day's work, more than 100 ferocious beasts had been hunted. In the Eternal Tribe, everyone cheered. It was said that whoever tamed the Starry Sky Bear Dog King would have the qualifications to rule the Wilderness God continent. Although this legend might not be true, it was undoubtedly very encouraging. Venerable, the new map has been drawn. The closest tribe to us is the second-rank tribe, the Golden Sand Tribe. The old village chief gave a map to Yi Chen. There was a red dot on it with the Golden Sand Tribe written on it, and the black dot represented the Eternal Tribe. Golden Sand Tribe? Yi Chen frowned. To be able to become a second-rank tribe, the tribe would have at least 2,000 households, which was several times more than the Eternal Tribe. At the very least, the number of sovereigns would be several times more. Fortunately, it wasn't a third-rank tribe. Otherwise, Yi Chen wouldn't be sure that the Eternal Tribe would be able to stop and conquer the other party. Who knew if the other party had any powerful experts? As long as there were 3 or 4 high-level sovereigns, it would be difficult for Yi Chen to defeat the other party, let alone break the other party's formation. At the same time, in the Golden Sand Tribe, Chief, we've already investigated. The new tribe is called the Eternal Tribe, a first-rank tribe. The Golden Sand Tribe's main hall was packed with people. Sitting in the main seat was a yellow-haired middle-aged man with a majestic aura. A mere first-rank tribe dares to call themselves eternal? How ambitious! The yellow-haired middle-aged man snorted coldly. Chief, give me a third of the troops. I, Jin Ho, am confident in conquering the Eternal Tribe. A skinny middle-aged sovereign walked out and volunteered. The Golden Sand Tribe had a total of 3,800 households, and there were more than 1,000 people who could fight. A third was already a lot. Even a lion uses its full strength to catch a rabbit. Jin Ho, lead half of the troops and set off. I'll wait for your good news in the tribe. The Golden Sand Tribe's chief felt that a third of the troops wasn't enough. I won't disappoint you. Jin Ho's face lit up. After he conquered the Eternal Tribe, he could choose a few more women to be his concubines and bear children for him. Such a good thing could only be encountered by chance. My Golden Sand Tribe can finally be promoted to a third-rank tribe. The Golden Sand Tribe's chief was very happy. He picked up his wine pot and drank. Chapter 1332. The Golden Sand Tribe is invading. Combat personnel, get ready. The rest of you, stay in the tribe. The Golden Sand Tribe's attack came earlier than Feng Baixiong had expected. It was no wonder. The Golden Sand Tribe was a second-class tribe, while the Eternal Tribe was a first-class tribe. In the eyes of the enemy, the Eternal Tribe was undoubtedly a piece of juicy meat. The earlier they swallowed, the earlier they could feel at ease. On the plains beside the lake, the Golden Sand Tribe's troops gathered together. At a glance, there were 45 Supremes, while the Eternal Tribe only had 25. There were 20 more Supreme Beings, a great disparity in numbers. I'm the third elder of the Golden Sand Tribe, Marquis Jean. Today, I'm here to conquer your Eternal Tribe. If you know what's good for you, quickly surrender to prevent any casualties. Marquis Jean was clad in golden armor and wielded a large blade. I am the Venerable of the Eternal Tribe. I advise the Golden Sand Tribe to surrender as soon as possible. Yi Chen and the Starry Sky Bear Dog King walked out. What a huge Starry Sky Bear Dog! Marquis Jin's eyes widened. Third Elder, it's the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. The Supremes of the Golden Sand Tribe reminded Marquis Jean. Hearing this, Jin Ho's breathing became hurried. The Starry Sky Bear Dog King was 100 times rarer than an ordinary Starry Sky Bear Dog. It could only be chanced upon, not sought. If he could bring the Starry Sky Bear Dog King back to the leader, his position would definitely rise greatly, becoming the great elder who was second only to the leader. Kid, hand over the Starry Sky Bear Dog King and I'll spare your life, Marquis Jean said sternly. If you have the ability, come and take it yourself. Yi Chen mocked, refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Kill him. Marquis Jean waved his hand. The Supremes of the Golden Sand tribe rushed out like a whirlwind, pouncing towards the Supremes of the Eternal Tribe. Heaven Splitter, go and eat Marquis Jean. Yi Chen could tell that Jean Ho only had the aura of a peak Supreme being, and Sky Splitter could easily kill him. He did not know that the starry Sky Bear Dog King that followed him was countless times more powerful than normal starry Sky Bear Dogs. It was not something that a mere Supreme like him could handle. Of course, if Marquis Jean knew that Heaven Splitter had the strength of a mid-level Supreme, he probably wouldn't have ordered the attack. After all, Heaven Splitter had the strength of a mid-level Supreme. Yi Chen, who could tame Heaven Splitter, definitely had the strength of a mid-level Supreme. Roar! Heaven Splitter's 4 limbs exerted force, and with a single leap, he arrived beside Jean Ho. His sharp claws shot out and clawed at Jean Ho. How could Jean Ho have expected Heaven Splitter's speed to be so fast? He only had the time to raise his saber horizontally before a huge force collided with him. The saber slashed back, causing Jean Ho's body to tremble violently, and fresh blood spurted out. Impossible! Jean Ho's eyes bulged. Without waiting for Jean Ho to react, Sky Splitter opened his mouth and bit off Jean Ho's head. His claws clawed at Jean Ho's body, turning him into a bloody mess. Finally, Sky Splitter swallowed him whole. The stomach of a ferocious beast was a world of its own, capable of digesting existences stronger than itself. Clang! A set of supreme armor and a huge blade were spat out by Sky Split. Vicious beasts were unable to digest supreme weapons. Of course, it wasn't impossible to forcefully digest them, but it would take too much time and wouldn't bring any benefit. With a supreme weapon in its stomach, the efficiency of digesting other things would be reduced. The gains didn't make up for the losses. Good job! Yi Chen put away the supreme armor and saber. The desolate race Supreme's domain realm was too low. Yi Chen released his sword domain with all his might, instantly enveloping the 30 Golden Sand Tribe Supremes. The 30 Golden Sand Tribe Supremes panicked as they powered their domains to resist the sword domain. Unfortunately, their domains felt like they were facing a vast ocean against the sword domain. It was already pretty good that they could protect themselves, so how could they resist it? Yi Chen couldn't even be bothered to pull out the celestial sword. He punched out 30 times in one breath, and with the 30 punches, the 30 Golden Sand Tribe Supremes immediately collapsed to the ground, losing all combat strength. This was the result of Yi Chen showing mercy, or his punches would have killed them. After devouring Jean Ho, Sky Splitter did not continue devouring the other Golden Sand Tribe Supremes. It only injured them to the ground. A man and a dog were invincible. Your third elder is dead. Quickly abandon your weapons and surrender, or you will be killed without mercy. Yi Chen shouted loudly, accompanied by Sky Splitter's domineering roar. Hearing this, all the Golden Sand Tribe Supremes threw down their weapons. It wasn't that they were cowardly, but the disparity was too great. The other party, a man and a dog, had taken care of most of them. Continuing to resist was just courting death. Village Chief, incorporate them. In the Eternal Tribe, Yi Chen was in charge of fighting, while the village chief was in charge of incorporating them. The two had a clear division of labor. All right. The village chief, Feng Baixiong, was overjoyed. Yi Chen's combat strength was too strong. The Eternal Tribe was destined to prosper, and they would achieve great things in the Wilderness God continent. The incorporation was very smooth. After the oath was made, the Golden Sand Tribe's men that Jean Ho brought became members of the Eternal Tribe. The Eternal Tribe became unprecedentedly powerful, with more than 70 Supremes. Things were not over yet. Since the two tribes had already started fighting, they naturally had to conquer the Golden Sand Tribe as soon as possible. With Yi Chen and the village chief in the lead, a group of people marched towards the Golden Sand Tribe. The original Golden Sand tribe members followed behind bitterly. At the same time, they sighed in their hearts. As long as Yi Chun and the Starry Sky Bear Dog King were here, it would not be difficult for the Eternal Tribe to become a 5th-rank tribe. The Golden Sand tribe would have to submit sooner or later. After a day, the group arrived near the Golden Sand tribe. In Golden Sand tribe, the yellow-haired middle-aged man walked out with a group of Supremes. When he saw Jin Ho's group standing behind Yi Chen's group, his eyes couldn't help but squint as he asked in a loud voice, "Where is Jin Ho? Jin Hun, what's going on? Tell me quickly." Jin Hun was the leader of the Golden Sand tribe's 5 hunting squads. He smiled bitterly and said, "Leader, we have already submitted to the Eternal Tribe. As for Elder Jin Ho, he died in battle." Another original Golden Sand Tribe Supreme said, "Leader, the Golden Sand Tribe can't resist Supremacy Yi Chen's strength. We should quickly surrender." His family was in the Golden Sand Tribe. Since he had submitted to the Eternal Tribe, he naturally hoped that the Golden Sand Tribe would submit as well. Bullshit. If you want to conquer my Golden Sand Tribe, you have to defeat me first. Who dares to fight me? The Golden Sand Tribe's leader was bolder and more domineering than Yi Chun had imagined. He originally wanted to ask Sky Splitter to leave, but that was too insulting. "I'll fight you." Yi Chun stood with his hands behind his back. "One punch. As long as you can take one punch from me, the Golden Sand Tribe will henceforth submit to the Eternal Tribe." The Golden Sand Tribe's leader was rough on the outside but meticulous on the inside. The Eternal Tribe had many more Supremes than them. If they fought as a group, they would definitely lose. Therefore, he decided to retreat in order to advance and fight alone. Like a primordial mountain running, the Golden Sand Tribe's leader roared and punched at Yi Chun. This punch shone with golden light. Before the punch arrived, the wind from the punch had already arrived. The terrifying wind from the punch tore the ground apart and violently churned. "Not bad, it's a novice Supremes." Yi Chun also punched out. The two fists collided. Yi Chun didn't move a single inch, but the Golden Sand Tribe's leader vomited blood and was sent flying.